Yeah. I'd like to think that applause is for me, but that's because you guys know about our special guests. Listen, we got an outstanding show tonight. Very excited, very excited. You know, these are those nights where you sit there, you say, we've got news, we've got gaming news, right? On games and the industry. And then you have one of the greatest guests you can actually have on a show tonight here for you guys. Before we get started, guys, take a second, please. Before we enjoy all the greatness that CrossFire will provide tonight, hit the like button. Please share it out. Hit the subscribe button. Don't be bashful on the buttons is where I'm going with this. We've got a hell of a show for you. And as you can see right there in the description, I kind of give a brief detail of what we're going to be hitting on. I gave our guests tonight at least an easy 12 topics. We'll get to 3 of them. We'll get to 3 of them if we're lucky. But right above that description is the join button. If you will be so gracious to consider, please, subscribing to our channel and becoming a Mooch Maniac family member, it'd mean the world to me. That being said, let me thank the individuals that do make this channel so great and help the things that you see change week to week on the channel. It's thanks to these great individuals. The great Sir X-Man, JudaZuk, WoolleyGamer, Ben Link, Failed Pyromancer, Frostbite Slash, Zombilla Ice Cream, CustodsX, Hustle and Motivate, AceJunky, Two-Tone SB, Replicant, Damion, JWE316, MumbleRanting Gaming, Tyson Web 509, Mr. Twister, All-Round Gamer, TrueWiddy, Wraith The Emperor, Alex Brent, our newest Mooch Maniac member, DatSkry, our major Mooch Maniacs, Bryant Carter, Tactical Gamer, DatGuySmitty, HumaCast, Ice Queen Gaming, who I've seen here in the chat, the wise old gamer, 4-star General Shaun Slamka, Brian B, a.k.a. Delirium Blades, and our VIP Mooch Maniacs, Wendigo Rex, Forkboy Gaming, Darkseed 80, Mex J88, Remarkable Knights, Rich Kryger, Rated D Demonic, and the great Percolator 9000. And our honorable mentions, LDW, Director Productions, the great Wilmy Hood, and our forever Mooch Maniac, Longshot 316. Guys, outstanding show tonight. Just get ready. Just be ready. Let me start with the one, the only. I don't know how to give him an introduction that's any better than this, but he's the most useful man in useful list trivia of all time. It's the Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. Brett, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you tonight?
Ooh, thanks for that introduction. I do have a lot of useless knowledge, per se.
Yes, sir.
So if anyone who is interested in playing some Trivia Pursuit, let me know. Let me know. I'm always down for a good game. And
nobody want to play that.
Forte.
Perfect timing for Forte. Is it not?
Who wants to play that, man?
A lot of people want to play Trivia Pursuit.
No,
but hey, all jokes aside, Mooch, great topics. We got Grub in the house.
Yes.
It's going to be a great show.
I'm very excited. I'm extremely excited. Let me get through these intros because we have so many topics I want to get into. The man himself who introduced himself, the great Gaming Forte, who's here for you folks. He works in the industry to benefit you. Forte, welcome to the show tonight. How are you?
I'm good, man. Just dealing with family stuff at the moment. But outside of that, man, it's just been a pretty insane couple of weeks. And the beats just keep rolling. We got a crazy announcement for stuff going into services that people didn't think was going to happen, that we told people about.
That's right.
And we got Jade Raymond getting the bag once again from another publisher. This time, I think this publisher might stick, though.
I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
I don't either.
Absolutely. And then I've got my buddy here. This is great. The voice of reason. Another BRAP co-host. Okay. He's fantastic. He knows what he's talking about. And I like when E says something on Twitter. It's funny. He's the only person that must have a larger tweet button than the rest of us, because when he replies to people, it shuts them down. E, welcome back to the show, buddy. How are you tonight?
Yo, I'm good, man. What's going on? Happy Friday, everybody. Great to be here. I'm glad that once again the planets aligned, Mooch, that we could get this going, man.
Listen, I got news for you. This show had to happen, and the reason being is because you actually reached out to me. That never happens, and I love it.
Yeah, man. I saw the daylight. I saw the goal line. I was like, let's go.
Yes.
Let me get Mooch locked in now. Make sure he doesn't have anybody else better than me to be on Friday night.
I know that means you got something on your mind, and you got to get it off.
Yeah, I'm interested now.
So do I. Believe me. He's hitting me up on a Tuesday. On a Tuesday? For a Friday show. That's fantastic. E, welcome back to the show. Always great to have you. And then a returning guest here, HR Bomber. You guys know Bomber from Gaming Beyond the Box. He's very outspoken on YouTube and Twitter, and might, because we do have a rival for this competition on the panel tonight. One of the best beards in gaming. Bomber, how the hell are you doing tonight, buddy?
Man, doing pretty good. Excited to be here. Then this week's been kind of crazy here, especially in Alabama, because we've had like tornadoes all day Wednesday. So I've had to deal with that, and my mom's house got hit and all that stuff. So we've been kind of dealing with that the last couple of days. But other than that, been good. Been trying to get gaming in, but like I said, last couple of days haven't been able to due to power and everything else lately. But definitely excited to be here tonight.
Well, I appreciate it, Bomber. And then last but not least at all, the great Jeff Grubb is back here. And just so you guys know, Jeff Grubb has done more podcasts this week than Michael Phelps did a live showing on The Tonight Show and every other talk show after he broke the gold medal record. Jeff Grubb, it is great to have you back on the show, buddy. You're charismatic, you're entertaining, and you're knowledgeable on the subjects at hand. So, Jeff, welcome back to the show. How are you this evening?
Okay. I'm just
yes, that's great.
I couldn't even pull it off. I'm sorry. Thanks for having me on, man. This is a great time. I'm ready to do this.
All right. Well, let me not waste too much time. Jeff,
somebody wrote an article, by the way, just real quick.
Yes, there is an article. By the way, Jeff, if any time at all during the next 2 hours you feel the need to say CrossFire is the only podcast that you would ever go on and reveal anything on, we'd like to just have you say that out loud. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't make a difference. All right. That being said, that's a little promo for CrossFire because whatever Jeff says goes to print immediately. It doesn't matter. All right. I love it. Jeff, let me start with you. So, the Xbox March event, which, we won't make more of it. We won't make less of it than it is. Going to be an ID at Xbox event. And, you've been out there and you didn't use the words temper your expectations. You didn't say nothing of that. But you said, listen, there's going to be a possibility. Well, let me not put words in your mouth. There was a possibility spoken before that there may be something revealed, nothing on the E3 caliber, nothing like that. But Will we see anything, a snippet at all, that steps out of the ID at Xbox? Or no, this is strictly that, or are we going to get just one more thing at the end of the show?
This is strictly ID at Xbox. This is just indie developers showing off their stuff coming to Xbox, probably some stuff coming to Game Pass. I think they explicitly said some of the stuff that's coming to Game Pass, but nothing first party, nothing massive like that. I mean, I guess unless you consider Stalker 2 like exciting. I think there's a lot of Stalker fans who are ready to see more of that game. And basically the lineup they gave and how they structured it, saying there's 25 new games or 25 like new trailers and gameplay things for games. Mm-hmm. That sounds exciting to me, but it's not anything like E3 at all. No first party stuff for sure.
Okay, I mean, like myself included, I got to tell you. So here we are. It's the beginning of the generation, if you will. Still, people like to think we're fast forwarding already, but I mean, I'm pretty excited to see something from Xbox. A lot of people were down or a little rough on Sony's state of play that we saw a few weeks back, and I said, listen, they're just keeping in touch with the audience, and I think this is Xbox's way of doing the same thing. Now, will these ID at Xbox games be first to the Xbox platform? Or are they going to be basically, some of them will be multi-plat, it's just that Xbox is just debuting them on their stage?
Yeah, there's definitely some that are going to be multi-plat, some that have already come out recently. So some games that came out recently on PC. So I imagine those are the kinds that would get announced for Game Pass or something like that. But then, I mean, I think we know Stalker 2 is exclusive on console to Xbox, and that's a pretty big deal. I think they'll try to find ways to promote these games in interesting ways, whether or not that is exclusive on console to Xbox or coming to Game Pass. They'll talk about them in those kinds of terms. But there will be some stuff that is absolutely just multi-platform, and they're just showcasing it here. I think in part because Nintendo doesn't seem to be doing its annual March Indie Showcase. They usually do like an Indie World around this time of year, and there's no in-person GDC. So I think Nintendo just skipped out on planning that this year, and that left a lot of indie developers a little bit twisting in the wind. And Microsoft was willing to pick up that mantle a little bit in a way that like Sony wasn't either. So I think this is Microsoft just kind of doing right by its indie partners and giving them a strong place to show off what they have coming up. At the same time, continuing sort of like this ongoing winning streak for Xbox in terms of just like good good PR, good publicity, stuff that people like to hear. Nothing that's like a grand slam home run or anything like that, but just a lot of like good stories coming out of Xbox right now.
Yeah, and guys in the panel, if you have anything you want to ask Jeff or just kind of add to this, please do. I myself, I think Jeff just kind of segued into one of my second topics because I knew that these two would merge together. Whether we're talking about the ID at Xbox show that's coming up later on in March, or we're talking about just the past 7 to 10 days That's probably the best 7 to 10 days. Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. Probably the best 7 to 10 days Xbox has had in about almost 7 years. It's just been hit after hit after hit. Xbox has kind of nailed it. They really, really have. They're coming into their own. And a lot of people, me included, I thought we were going to see this magnificent strike that we're seeing happen now. I thought we were going to see this around the November, well, I shouldn't even lie to you, probably like July 2020 into November and the console release, and this big like 1-2 punch coming from Xbox, because they really did focus on this generation halfway through the last generation. So I thought we would kind of get our feet wet in November of 2020, and it looks like it's not much later. It's March. It really can't complain. It's not like it's years later. But, they really are coming into their own. I mean, this week alone, and guys, like I say on the panel, please do chime in. You're talking about Game Pass, big week, right? Outriders, Day and Date, Octopath Traveler. These are just some of the big names. EA Play to PC. Future's looking good here. I mean, Brap, what do you think? What's your take?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think this has been a big week for them. We talked about this on Brap Wednesday. Shameless plug. That Outriders I thought was a pretty big get for them. This is, Square Enix. It's a new IP. And I really do think that this is not going to be the first new, AAA IP from a big dev publisher that you're going to see day and date on Game Pass. And, until they start, really dropping some of those bangers, if you will, from their first party studios, this is going to be a good way to, drive engagement and to keep people engaged and excited in Game Pass. This is a big win for them. The other thing I was going to say is it and I don't know what the sales pitch was to Square Enix to get Outriders on.
I know what it was, Enrique.
What's that?
You saw what happened to Anthem, right?
Oh, I mean, yeah.
You don't want that to happen to you, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
They were like, you see what happened to Anthem and you saw what happened to Destiny. Which way do you want to go?
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Forte brings up a great point. Like, they have numbers to kind of show, hey, if you guys bring a game like this to Game Pass, look what Destiny's done since Destiny's been available. We've removed that barrier of entry of $60-$70 now. And so it's definitely exciting. Like, I'm really excited to see what Microsoft is going to do next. That's kind of and for me, like, I got a Series X at launch, and I really haven't been paying much attention to it per se.
Mm-hmm.
But this move piqued my interest, where I'm like, oh, okay. And it's about mind share more than anything else, I think, too. Kind of building that mind share, getting that mind share back into the minds of gamers.
Yeah.
100%.
Now, it's funny because a lot of people, and, they announced, we heard that the rumors were going to be about this March event, and kind of speculation was getting a little out of hand. And, they came out and said, listen, this is going to be ID at Xbox. I think a lot of people, even with this great news that has been going on the past 7 to 10 days with Game Pass and Outriders news and the 20 plus Bethesda games, and then the big names like Octopath Traveler, which people are shocked is coming to Xbox before it goes to PlayStation. People still want to see something AAA, Jeff. You know what I mean? Like, this is, I guess, where I'm going for.
Yeah.
And I'm on the fence. I'm one of those people that's kind of where Brap is. I'm very excited. I have been enjoying my Xbox a lot more lately. I have. But I'm really starting to the point where I'm jonesing for that AAA. And I know that this year, besides the ID games and probably like the Stalker 2 type caliber games, I'm kind of waiting on my hands until Halo comes out. There was some talk, and I guess, again, they took the gentleman's words, Mr. Ronald there, and took his words and scrambled them and said, oh, maybe it'll be an Xbox game. Do you think there's anything we may see come around the July E3 timeframe where we might get another big AAA first-party game from Microsoft for the fall holiday season?
So there's a couple possibilities here. I'll start by saying I think that the reason we are seeing this sort of cluster of news coming out of Xbox is because they do realize that for the most part, people are going to be waiting a little bit longer still to get those big AAA games that you are hungry for.
Yes.
I think that a big problem is you're right. They started preparing for this generation halfway through last generation, but a lot of that came with acquiring studios that already had pre-existing agreements that they had to finish up first before they could start work on something new. And that pushed everything back to the point where, there's going to be a dearth of releases still for a little bit. And I think that's going to be the big story for Microsoft this year, for Microsoft proper. I think that the potential here is two things. I do think Forza Horizon 5 probably is coming this year. I still think that.
Okay.
And then And then I think that Starfield, I think the idea is Starfield this year too. I think those are the two big ones. Where if Starfield gets revealed in the E3 June timeframe and they try to do the Fallout 4 rollout, that could be something that dominates conversation to the point where you aren't even really thinking about like, okay, well, you announced Perfect Dark, you announced all this other stuff. Where is it? You're like, okay, well, I got to play Starfield first, and then once I get through that. Now let's check back in, and by the time we check back in, they will start to have other stuff ready to go. I think that is the game plan. We'll see if they'll be able to pull it off. We have to, as always, COVID pending. Like COVID's still going to be a thing that's going to be causing issues here. Yeah. It likely already has. But I think that's the game plan. I do think that's really what they're aiming for. And I think at the very least, it's like reveal Starfield at E3 probably still, and then release it by March 2022. I think that's probably like the long term, like if things go bad, that's probably what they're looking at.
So what inclination kind of gave you that? You got to have, you've been in the business for so long, Jeff. There's got to be something that kind of at least tips the scales for you to say, you know what, I'm confident in saying that if everything goes, if everything, COVID is not affected, things like that, things are status quo, we could see Starfield at the end of this year. What kind of led you to that? Did you get a tip off or have you seen something?
Yes, I got it. Yeah, so I got some. Source gave me some. They said they were confident, and that's kind of what I'm trying to relay here. Is that the desire is to get that game out. The desire is definitely to reveal it this year. Let's see what the actual release plan looks like. But yeah, if they're going to reveal it at E3 in the June timeframe, then all that other stuff sort of follows logically from there.
I agree.
But also like it just comes down to like, they spent $7.5 billion on this company. They're going to want to have that company ready to go to fill in the gap that is created by all these other studios still in a reloading cycle. And Starfield is at that point where it's in development where it should be ready pretty soon. And now, these games are so big that pretty soon can always expand into yet another year of development. But it doesn't seem like that's the case necessarily. And if that changes, we'll hear about it. We'll find out. But it does seem like the goal is to get that game out this year.
So, and I do want to open it up to the panel here. It's not supposed to be just a one-on-one, but I'll be honest with you, Jeff, we had this discussion last week, and I've got to ask you this. We unanimously kind of thought that if the case is that Starfield does come out either this holiday or very early into 2022, we felt that, and again, it's hard to interpret what Phil actually meant when they did their roundtable, but if it's this close to finished, and of course, Phil said we'll honor any kind of contracts. This is not a contract. There's nothing binding here. But it would seem to me that since the this acquirement of ZeniMax, etc., just happened recently, even if talks happened a year ago, games take, we all say 3, 4, 5 years to get completed. Would Starfield see its way on the PlayStation 5 only because it's so close to completion?
Yeah.
I don't think only because I do think that those deals actually happen. They get finalized later in the process than most people probably realize. I think that conversations are always happening. Sometimes the deals get inked really early on. Yeah, sure. But a lot of times it's like, okay, well, we'll have you at an event and then let's talk and maybe we can agree on something later. Okay, well, okay, so nothing got finalized this time. Let's talk again later. I don't think that I'm skeptical that Sony got anything in writing about this game. Now, the fact that it's been in development so long and it was ready to go, like, is there a PlayStation 5 version like just sitting there that, like, why wouldn't they just release it?
Right.
That's another possibility, but I don't think that I'm not going to say that I'm sure that they wouldn't, but I don't think they will. And if they do, I think it'll be a timed exclusive on Xbox first anyhow, and then they'll just take your $70, 6 months from now or a year from now, if you want. Like that's a card they could always play. But when this game originally comes out, unless Sony starts coming out and saying otherwise, saying which I think they would have if that was the case.
Right.
My guess is that the game's probably not coming to PlayStation 5.
Oh, interesting. I really thought that second option you gave there it holds some water, because I think they said they want to put things on Game Pass and give the Xbox experience that first class treatment, and I think that the way to do that is to give them, at the minimum, if the game is already ready, a 6-month to 12-month exclusive time frame on the Xbox platform, and then, like you said, make that extra 70% per game as it ends up on the PlayStation Network store. Brap, what do you? Go ahead.
It's possible. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I'm in that camp as well. Brap, did you have something?
No, I kind of agree with what Jeff's saying. I think if it does come to PlayStation, it's probably going to be along the lines of something where it's 6 months or a year exclusive to the Xbox platform, similar to kind of what we've seen with Final Fantasy VII remake on PlayStation 4. But I have heard that marketing is already in play, or the plans for marketing for this game are in play for a fall release.
Okay.
So but I don't think this thing's going to go. If you would ask me to bet on whether this is going to be a multi-plat game, I don't think it is. At the end of the day, I think it's going to be exclusive to the Xbox platform. Oh, and I think so because it's like the first big like Bethesda game, right?
Right.
And it's the first one that's under kind of Microsoft's. I don't see them,
and
I could be wrong.
Legacy, right? There's no
legacy. There's no legacy. I don't see them doing that. It's a new IP, and and this is their chance to be like, hey, this is ours. This new, and hopefully the IP hits. Let's hope it.
And if they really don't have anything else other than Halo, like they really want something that is theirs.
Yeah.
I think they really want that.
Yeah, they have a $500 console to sell. Absolutely, like outside of Halo, and I'm still worried about Halo, to be frank. To have something as big as Starfield, there's a lot of mind share behind that. I agree with Jeff again. Like they want this to be theirs. This is going to be their baby, I think.
So I have a question, because I want to know: is this Into the Spider-Verse? Am I in an alternate dimension right now? I must have went through a portal and came out the other side.
We're in a portal.
And for some reason, there is a Crossfire over here that is the opposite of the last Crossfire. I gotta ask y'all a question.
Go ahead, please.
What is so different?
Mm-hmm.
Jeff's here.
Yes. Well, yeah. Jeff, you're always positive, so you're definitely you're definitely different. But between just Brap and Mooch,
yes, please.
It's mostly for you guys. What is so different now compared to like a month and a half ago when I know myself
that's an
and
easy
Xbox,
answer.
when
That's
me and my
easy.
myself
Answer.
and Xbox been basically telling
Well,
people that this was kind of the direction that was gonna happen for
well,
a while
I'll answer.
now.
I'll answer real quick.
I mean,
here. This
granted,
is easy.
Xbox finally came out and said it themselves, but some people thought this was definitely not a possibility.
No, and I don't get me wrong. By the way, the Great Gaming Forte poses a great question, and I'm glad you did say that, because there's a discrepancy here. But the reason that there's a change in the way the wind's blowing here is not only because Jeff is here with things that he's heard. It's hard to dispute somebody who's heard something, but there's also the fact that you had the roundtable. So a month and a half ago. That was before Phil came out and made that statement that Phil said. Do I still think, I just said a second ago that I still think it holds the door open a crack. And what I mean by that is that it would be a timed exclusive, because I still am in the camp, okay? Everybody on this panel could talk me into that Starfield will become exclusive on the first day. I'll buy that. But at the end of the day, after all the jargon and the talk and the this and that and the round tables that are going on with Phil, we put that aside. Microsoft wants to make money. A lot of people say they didn't have to do a $7.5 billion deal. They could have done smaller deals. I get it. But the one thing that they do want to do with a $7.5 billion deal is they want to take a $7.5 billion deal. They want to make it $1 trillion. They want to make money. So what do? They have to kind of give their audience a cookie and say, this is why you're a Game Pass member. This is why you want to come to Game Pass if you're not there. That's that notion. That's something very similar to what Phil was kind of referring to. I still think if this game is done, okay, now moving forward, Elder Scrolls 6, which isn't even started basically yet, that's a different story. But this one here, if we're going to go ahead and agree that it's coming out somewhere between holiday and early 2022, that's money on the table. I don't care if we're talking about Phil, Satya, or anybody on this panel. If you're making that call, that's fine. You want to get people interested and move them over to Game Pass or onto the Xbox platform or PC Game Pass, I'm with you. But if the game's done and it's already coded and already set up for PlayStation, that's 70% per copy. And let's not kid ourselves, PlayStation's still the leading brand in that market. Why would you not want to make that?
I think the argument against this is always, well, then why doesn't Sony put their games on Xbox? And then, but just let's think about like the platform that Xbox is trying to emulate, Netflix. Netflix does put their movies in theaters. That's usually to make sure that they can win Oscars. That's usually what that's about. Sometimes they sell DVDs and Blu-rays at Target of their shows. Most of the time they don't, though. And then I think the biggest example is like they don't ever put their movies on demand. They don't ever sell their movies on any on-demand service. If you really want to get Netflix's exclusive content, you're going to subscribe to Netflix, and they could make more money by putting the stuff on demand or anything like that, but they would rather just get those subscriptions. And I think that Xbox is looking long-term at that, and they will leave money on the table. They can afford to, first of all, but I think they will because the end goal is something different.
But if a game ends up being 6 to 12 months old, Jeff, my whole point has been this for a long time. At that point, it doesn't matter. And if you use the Netflix, I do want to use TV and movies as an example as well, but it's a bit of a different one. If you look at what's going on right now, you see these movies right now because of the pandemic are coming to HBO Max, things like that. Yeah. But do you see the future movies when they're advertising them? It says theaters. Theaters only, okay? They want that big movie ticket. And what I mean by that is not everybody's just falling in line and, gushing over the subscription-based policies. They want it. There's still people who want to go see a big budget movie in a theater, pay way too much for popcorn and watered down soda. Okay, that's what they want to do. It's their right.
Watered down soda.
Right? It's what it is. It's what it is. But right?
Oh, so speak for your movie theater.
Well, listen, that's New York. They're always trying to make an extra dollar. Here's my point. The point. So the thing about what Microsoft is, that's fine. They want to still get you to see the thing on HBO Max. That's their Game Pass. That's fine. But remember, the ticket item over on PlayStation they're not going to put it on PS Now. It's still that red carpet. You have to go to the store. You have to go see Gaming Forte. You have to go into GameStop. You have to buy that game and go home with it. And you know what? There's no. I just firmly believe that. Now, again, I want to clearly state this because Jeff, just like what you say, everybody likes to twist words. All I'm saying is this: when you're talking about something like an Elder Scrolls 6, where there's nothing at all, there's nothing on pen. There's not even pen and paper for a PlayStation 5 version. That I completely agree. No. Absolutely not. It won't. It just won't be there. But this here's done or close to it because I'm buying into what you're putting down. I think this thing's almost done. That's the only reason. And Brap, I want to hear what you guys have to say, but if I don't take it, I have an outstanding super chat by one of the greatest in the business, Marty Bison. Let me say here, shout out to Zeal here. Zeal says, still at work, probably not related to what the subject is at the moment. He says, but Master Chief's voice actor recently did an interview, and from what I seem to understand from the story, he seems to like Infinite better than Halo 5. Well, that's fine, but and don't get me wrong, I think that's part of, I don't think he could ever. Why would he downplay in an interview that he's got a new great game coming out? But I understand your point. The great Marty Bison, the wonderful Marty Bison. He says, Mooch, when are we going to hit the lab? He goes, EVO calling our name this year. Dragon Ball FighterZ is calling. Shout out to the panel, by the way. Hope you guys are having a great show. The great Marty Bison. Marty, thank you for that support. TrueWiddy says,
Ryan put a medal around your neck.
Right. Shout out with the $100 holla. That's right. What we talking about. Appreciate that, bro.
TrueWiddy, thank you so much, buddy. TrueWiddy says,
holla.
You forget Phil said it will come to PlayStation if it makes sense. I don't know what Phil is doing, but I think Starfield will come because it's far along. And I really do. I want to get more opinions on the chat about that. And the great Marty Bison comes back with $20 super chat. He says, read your super chat, sir. Hit that like button. Somebody yell. Marty, thank you so much. I will be in touch. We are going to be doing some gaming this weekend.
I want to answer Forte real quick. So, so my perspective changed a little bit. One, because of the roundtable, obviously. But you got to remember something. I also heard some things that were pretty from. I can't.
You heard from both. You heard things.
You heard things.
Yeah, I heard things. Yeah,
you heard some stuff that was a lie. Then you heard some stuff that was
true.
Well,
but I heard things from people that were in the know. Like, and I can't say too much, but like,
I know
to lead me to believe that. Wait a minute, like, it might not be like what everyone's thinking. And then the roundtable happened. It was like, well, wait a minute, like something clearly is happening. Something clearly is happening a little bit differently than what I had heard or was told. So so that's obviously like where my perspective has changed with this whole thing. And at the end of the day, I mean, look, I get this is a talk show. I'm, and we got to talk about these topics, but as a gamer, I'm excited regardless. Like if it
Absolutely.
comes to, like if Starfield does happen to go to PlayStation 5, that's great because now PlayStation gamers who only own that console get to play the game. If it's only on Series X, well, I own a Series X, so I'm happy.
Well, you can get Game Pass on
if you look,
Game Pass on PC.
Yeah, Game Pass on PC, which PC is the best place to play. We have all your exclusives.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and if you want Starfield exclusive, you're gonna have to maybe fork out the money.
Yeah,
you have a decision to make at that point, and if you do, go see Mr. Gaming Forte. He'll hook you up.
So the only thing I want to say is I wasn't really trying to throw like shade at you guys because you guys been consistent in your argument on the other side, and I appreciate that because most people don't. But I just wanted people because people said this just seems like a flip flop. I kind of just wanted you guys for the chat mostly to just explain why you felt the way you felt because I mean there's a lot of people out there that truly felt like this was something that wasn't going to happen. And I just think it just really took Microsoft to actually come out and do it. And it's like that, don't tell me, show me. And I think that's where a lot of people's idea and attitude is kind of coming around on Xbox a little bit better because they did have that round table. Now there's still speculation out. I mean, not speculation. There's still skepticism out there on how this is actually going to play out because we haven't gotten to the games being played. But this is a great first step for them. And, they just added even more ammunition to the fire when it comes to things that they're throwing in Game Pass that we'll talk about later on. But I think everybody is pretty much in sync with each other when it comes to the round table did nothing but hurt them compared to a lot of their past events. A lot of the stuff that they did in those events hurt them more than helped them. So I think this is the first time we got a really good glimpse into what Xbox really wants us to be focusing on versus the interim.
Well, let me, Carl Smith. Let me just. I want to just read Carl Smith's because I want to get Jeff's take on this. And Bomber and E, feel free to chime in as well. Carl says here, he says, how much developing costs can you make back with Game Pass alone? So, Jeff, the reason I'll pose that question to you, and I'll just add a quick comma and comment after it, is not only development costs, but what would you say Microsoft has to kind of see here as far as, when we've been slowly creeping up, we've gone, 10 to 12 to 15 to 18. Right. Do we need to see something when Starfield comes out? Give them a 6-month window. Nothing happens overnight. 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. Where we need to see a 25, 30, 35 million jump, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have to. They have their projections and they have their rainy day projection and they have their making it rain projection, and I think that it's going to be in between like the 22 to 35 million range, and I think as long as they continue to see the similar trajectory of growth as what they've had, they'll be happy. I do think that they expect to see a pretty significant jump with something like Starfield.
Absolutely.
I also think they'll get it. I also think that that game would absolutely deliver as long as there's no like cyberpunk situation. But I think people need to stop necessarily thinking in terms of Microsoft spent money, so now they need to get that money back. That's not how it works when you have the kind of money that Microsoft has. It's just a completely different ball game. They have got billions of dollars sitting in the bank, and that money is going to be losing value if inflation happens, and that money is not gaining any interest because interest rates are so low. They just want to put something out. They want to put that money into a place where it could start earning even a little bit more of a profit than what it would be getting from like 0.001 interest or sometimes negative interest rates because interest rates are so jacked right now.
That's a very good point.
It's a great point.
You want that money working for you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be we need to replace all 7.5 billion right away. Satya Nadella isn't like mad that like Phil went out and used his checkbook and he's like, "Where's my money? Get my money back." That's not how they think about it. It's completely different. So you don't like when he was answering questions about this with Phil, and he's like, we can make this just work with Game Pass. They absolutely can, and it's not just that this is the business they want to be in. They want to be in the service business. I think we have to repeat this over and over. But this is absolutely the business they want to be in. I know that Mooch, you were like they want to make money. But they see there's the value of $1 spent on Game Pass is more valuable to them than $1 spent in a one-time product transaction. They see the one has like long-term network effects. The more people in Game Pass, the more of them are telling their friends to get Game Pass. It's not the same thing as like I go out and buy Starfield. Maybe I like Starfield enough, and the word of mouth there is like, hey, go buy Starfield. there's something there, but it's not the same thing as like, hey man, I got Game Pass. I need you to get Game Pass so you can play this with me or talk about it with me. Look how good of a value it is. They become, word of mouth like machines where people just can't stop talking about what a good deal Game Pass is. That stuff is the kind of thing that they're trying to build on. And so, yeah, I totally see them focusing on Game Pass here and not thinking, oh God, we got to get this money back. It's just not how they're considering the situation.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to like jump in and touch on that.
Go ahead,
because that is the interesting thing. Like, because as far as I know, like this was a cash buy for them, right?
Yes.
I would assume so. Yeah.
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so when you have a sinking fund, when you're like, I don't, I'm debt free. I don't deal with, car payments. I don't deal with any of that stuff. I do a sinking fund and I buy my car outright. You do that, you lose your job. You're not worried about your car being taken away. So it's sort of like that same thing. It's like people seem to have this mentality where it's like they spent this money, they got to make it back this year. No, this is the long game. Like Jeff
that's
said,
a you and I problem. That's the human problem. Yeah,
exactly. That's how we think. Like, oh man, I just went and spent. I have a $500 car payment, man. What if I lose my job tomorrow? That's not where they are. This is the long game. And then that's the thing. It's like you're talking like a generational play and the next generational play. This isn't like if this doesn't work in the next year and a half, 2 years, man, it's a wrap. And that's the whole thing in general. And that's the generation in general. Everyone seems to be thinking in terms of everything has to happen like right now. Like they made this move, so it's over for everybody else. Or if they don't succeed with this, it's over for them. And it's like, that's not really how like Jeff's saying, that's not really how this plays out.
No.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like this is the reason why I get kind of mad at the whole Twitter thing and whatever else, just because everybody just tries to think like they're a corporate person. And you're not.
Right,
you're a gamer.
right.
Who freaking cares if it goes to PlayStation? Who cares where it goes?
Exactly.
If you have an Xbox and you have Game Pass, cool. Your exclusive is you don't have to pay for that game flat out. You get it day one on your subscription. Cool. That's your exclusive little in. Where PlayStation, okay, fine. They have to go pay for it, whatever, or go buy an Xbox or buy, build a PC, whatever it is. Microsoft, just kind of like Jeff, everybody's saying, is that they don't care about the right now. That money was money they have. It's easy to spend and they can make it back tenfold really quick.
And they really want to spend it. That's the big thing. They want to spend it.
They want, Satya has already said so many times is that, we're going to be buying more. It's a good use of their money.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep doing it. And you're going to see more and more. It may not be another big 7.5, but shoot, it could be more. So it shouldn't surprise anybody. But at the end of the day, I think for us as gamers, it's just a benefit. They're spending this money. They're going to put more money into it to make sure there's a good investment there. Because that's what they're doing. They're putting this investment and they want to get their refund back. But
well, shout out, I want to give a quick shout out to Saltiest Gaming. Salt said, he made a good point right there. I got to bring this up. So, if don't get me wrong, what E just said a moment ago in HR, you were just kind of backing up what E's saying. I actually came to that realization a couple of days ago. I'm sitting here and I was watching a couple of podcasts and I'm gaming, I'm chilling. And I'm sitting there and I say, you know what? Maybe it's not about right now. Maybe it's about the future. But I do have to say this much. So Salt makes a good point. He says, if it wasn't about money and results, Mixer would still be around. Well, like they gave up on Mixer.
That's
not
1-to-1.
Well, it's not 1-to-1, but you do have to. They just signed Ninja. They just signed the other gentleman, and before they could even get a commercial out, he came out and said it. Shroud. He said before we even got a commercial out, it was over.
Yeah. So real quick,
it is an interesting. It's interesting. It's not an apples to apples, but it is interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely not apples to apples, and I'll tell you why. Part of Satya's compensation. It's tied into Game Pass, so he's seeing this thing. He's seeing this thing through. He's the CEO of Microsoft. Part of his compensation, whatever that is tied to Game Pass.
Yes,
that lets you know how serious Microsoft's taking this. And I get people's maybe hesitation per se because there are some examples out there. We talk, and when Stadia came out with Google, we all talked about, well, it's Google,
right?
I could see how people might draw that, but I think this is different because Satya's really invested this personally, financially invested this too.
And no one says it's not about results. No one said like, oh, like they're just gonna like. No one's paying attention to the bottom line or the top line. No one cares if they're making money. That's not what we're saying at all. It is just that it's not about the $70 right now. The Game Pass dollar is worth more, and that's the result they care about. And if Game Pass implodes, of course these games are going to come to PlayStation, or they're going to sell these developers, or they'll shut them down and get out of gaming. Like all that's, yeah, of course. If they're going to pay attention to the results, they didn't get to be $1 trillion company by not paying attention to results. They have their key performance indicators. They'll look for them. It's just that their key performance indicators are different than what people keep saying they are. They are not like what it like. We look at this game costs this much to make, so we have to make that much money back from this game. That is not how they are looking at it. They're looking at it as a contributing and additive factor to whether or not it starts building out Game Pass as that network effect. And I think in most of these cases, that network effect will be it would have the biggest magnitude if it is exclusive to Game Pass. And they also said it basically flat out. These games are going to be exclusive.
I think the fact that they're exclusive to the Game Pass is what it just sweetens the deal. I mean, it sweetens the deal for Game Pass. But I do think that question I asked you a ways back, Jeff, is something we'll have to come back to quite some time from now. We won't be able to answer that anytime in the near future. Is just what number, just what kind of number are we talking about here that Microsoft needs to see where, okay, not about losing money. Let's not even go there. Let's go to a different subject. Like when it's just not worth their time and effort at this point. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. Like they spent a decent chunk of change, not nearly, $7.5 billion on Mixer. And Mixer didn't, I didn't feel Mixer really got a shake. And if you don't believe me, ask all the people that went from Twitch to Mixer and then now back to Twitch. They were kind of, they were very, very polite, I would say, online, but we all saw that they were not pleased. So because they took their careers and they left Twitch and they went to Mixer, and Mixer was over before you could, even spell Mixer correctly. It was just, for some reason, it just didn't leave a good taste in people's mouths. So all of a sudden now you have another situation here. And I do bring, and the Great Gaming Forte brought it up. I do mention it week in, week out. I always try to, promote Game Pass to friends who have family and kids and things like that. I'm not doing real well. I mean, a lot of the people I know, they're like, listen, I think Game Pass is great. They don't badmouth it. They don't badmouth it at all. But they play Call of Duty, they play Madden, they play NBA 2K. And the thing about it is they don't even know what Starfield is. The thing about it is like they don't know what even Bethesda is. That's what I'm trying to say here is, we sit here and we're in our bubble and we have such a great time discussing things in the Twitter community. But when it comes down to it, the reason Netflix and the reason Disney Plus and the reason those numbers and things are a little bit more skewed than what we're talking about right now is because they have the casual. The casual market is not necessarily interested in Starfield or anything Bethesda has to offer at all. And I don't mean just a casual gamer. I mean the casual. You know what I mean? Just somebody that you want to talk into going to buying a console. Like if they're going to go buy a console, they're probably going to do? Play Fortnite, Warzone, Apex Legends. They're not even
Skyrim,
playing.
Though, right?
So
and
Skyrim is one of those games. I think that's what this whole thing is like. I mean, Skyrim is absolutely one of the biggest games ever made, and I think that's what they think will win over the casual. That's why they put it. That's why they buy.
I'm interested to see
and
that.
They get exclusive to Game Pass, and I think they're hoping that if Starfield comes out and has even like half of the buzz of like a Fallout 4,
yes,
that'll be a really big win because that game was a huge buzz builder that year, and this game has the potential to do the same thing as long as it delivers pretty well on its promises. And again, doesn't pull a Cyberpunk. It's going to be the talk of this holiday season if that's when it comes out.
Jeff, thank you for bringing that up. That's something that we all kind of we brush right over, don't we? We always talk about that this game's coming out and it's going to do well for fill in the blank company. We don't ever talk about if this game, like Cyberpunk, was supposed to break records and break people's hearts, right? Well, it broke our hearts, but in the wrong way. So my point being is that's a good point. So if Starfield comes out, Starfield could do all the things that Jeff was just saying. I agree. But if Starfield comes out and it's kind of, I wouldn't use the word a dud, but it kind of falls a little bit flat, then it can kind of have an alternate effect. E, were you going to say something? I cut somebody off. I apologize.
I actually forgot what I was going to say, but no. To tag on what you just said, I kind of put a tweet out like that a couple of weeks ago where I just kind of said, I've seen people legit say like, Starfield's going to be game of the year.
Right.
People do that all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Hyperbole is the cereal brand of the Twitter bubble, right? But
game of the year.
But I'm like,
so true.
Hype is fine. Excitement is fine, but you guys need to calm down, man. We just saw a great example of when you do too much. You're doing too much right now. Just relax.
Right.
And understanding the reasons why you want it to be. Do you want it to be game of the year so you can run to Twitter and be like, haha, I told you so? Or do you
Probably.
want it to?
That's
Or
all
do,
it's
yeah, that's 100% what the bubble does.
Bomber, it's like that's
Or-
what it
or do
is.
That's exactly what
exactly
it is.
what it is. Bomber's right.
Or
yeah.
do you are you legit invested to the point where you're like, yo, I really
Right,
I'm
right.
all about Bethesda. I really want this game to be point. And a couple people hit me up and said that. I'm like, oh, that's a 100%.
Yes.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about these people who have lost themselves. And I actually kind of wondered too. And as I was watching the roundtable, I said, I wonder if like Phil's in the back and he's just like, I don't want to answer this just for the fact that I know it's not really about the excitement around the game.
Yes.
People just want to go dunk.
Yep.
You know, on
That's
Twitter.
it. That's the only reason why. I guarantee.
That's it. And like, you know, like Bomber said, and Enrique said, like, I don't have a dog in the fight because I'm going to play the game wherever it dropped, like I've been doing with Dishonor, like I've been doing with Prey, like and I'm sitting back and watching. I'm like, everyone kind of going on, oh my God. You know, these games, they just dropped 20. I'm like, if you've been a Game Pass subscriber from day one, which a lot of people say they were, Game Pass is, you know, whatever.
Mhm.
I've been in there since day one. Every one of those games have been there since day one. They were there at one point.
At one point.
Since the inception of Game Pass. So what, like, I'm a reverse Forte's question. So what made them hype now?
What made him
You
hype
had the
now?
opportunity to play Prey. You had
Well,
the
I
opportunity to
mean,
play
new,
Dishonored, and
hey,
it was a fantastic
new-
game.
new
I brought them on
announcements.
almost every platform I could get them on.
yeah, new announcements always does that. So the thing that I always look back when it comes to this conversation around Game Pass and profitability and stuff, and Jeff Grubb kind of summed it up perfectly. They care about the one subscription versus the one single buy you could buy of a game and stuff like that.
Mhm.
A lot of things that actually really help that is, you know, when you're trying to look at the average consumer, like the basic, you know, ordinary casual gamer that wants to play games, those are the people that get, but it's hard to get those people because you really can't gauge what those people want.
Right.
You know, at a certain point, it takes something so big to make people like notice it. Like they can plaster Game Pass all over the place, but until that one critical thing hits it, or
Yeah.
multiple
Games
critical things
Pass.
hit it,
Yes.
when that happens, then you'll get the wave of people that will
So-
just jump in, and it will continue to keep going. I always consider it just like we all know about Pokemon now. Pokemon has always been what it is right now. You open up a pack and there's a chance you could pull a $10,000 card out of it.
That's right.
But guess what happened and why you can't find a Pokemon card, a pack to save your life? All the casual people that knew nothing about this craze is doing it now.
Right.
And that is the wave that Xbox is trying to catch. They're trying to finally get that one nugget
Yeah.
of no matter what game it
So-
is. They don't care what
They
game
need
is
a Pokemon
that
Go.
nugget is. They're just trying to find that one that hooks a lot of people at one time, and then the groundswell will happen, and then you get 10 million subscribers in 1 month just because of something that just happened, and then the wheels just keep turning and they keep turning. Sooner or later, that's what they're hoping is going to happen. But that's how you
So-
get the casual, because you really can't plan for the casual gamer. You could just hope and just keep putting things out until that person bites it, and then you just get a rash of them all at one time.
So let me do
Yeah.
this. I have a couple of super chats, and I do want to bring this up. So shout out to TrueWiddy. He says the thing with the Netflix, look, it just paid $8 billion in debt and still in debt. Games cost more than TV and movies. How will Xbox make money on services alone? I apologize. Some of it was a language translation, but there's that question there. And I did want to also ask. Carl Smith comes back and he says, "Yeah, I hear what you're saying about Netflix is on everything. Game Pass is only on Xbox and PC. Maybe it's just me. I don't see a lot of big risk games being made exclusively for it." Okay, those are two kind of, those are like A and B to reasons that, the Netflix comparison is a little bit different. But I the one thing I'll say, Jeff, that no one brings up, and it's not as flashy, right? This isn't as flashy to talk about, but I've been saying it for a long time, and I do want to thank Forte for bringing it up a few weeks ago, because he goes, Mooch, you've been saying this since day one. I always thought, okay, we know that first-party games that, are going to go into Game Pass day and date. That's great. But the one thing that I like for being a Game Pass subscriber, right, is I enjoy these surprise third-party games. And, knowing that Starfield's going to be in there day one and Fallout 5, that's great. It's great. But I almost, we all take that for granted. We know that's coming now. But when you see something like Outriders go in there, that's what excites me. And you're probably going, wait, Mooch, you're excited about that? Well, the reason I'm excited about that is, first of all, I've played the demo endlessly, and I think it's fun. And this is a clear game that you could say this was going to cost me $60 in 2 weeks. And now I've got it included in Game Pass. And I might have even bought it on PS5. Guess what? Not now. Not now. So, Jeff, the one thing that I wanted to say was, we could sit here and talk about the glitz and the glamour of first party. We already know that. I think the real secret to Game Pass is the day and date, not GTA 6, not GTA 6. I know that's not going in, right?
No.
But the Outriders of the world, the double AAA games that people have enough interest in, doesn't cost Microsoft a ton of money to invest in, and gives that redeeming nugget, if you will, to retain the customers you have. Not just get new ones, but retain the existing. And that's the one thing that I kind of want to bring here, because not a lot of people talk about it. Outriders, that style type of move gets me more excited than even knowing that Starfield's, because I know Starfield's going to be in there. You know what I mean? That's like when I turned on Netflix and I saw Avengers Infinity War, right? I was like, holy shit, it's in here. It's great. I don't have to go buy it. I can watch it right here. I knew Netflix original cinema is going to be in there. It's called Netflix. I got it. But when they had that in there, I said, this is a little treat. This is something extra. I want to hang on to this service. That's why the Outrider type games are going to be important. Jeff, are there any more of these that you're hearing? Not name brand. You can actually put a name out there. But will they do more of these third-party day and date things so that it keeps that excitement, that enthralled, like, I didn't see that coming, you know, when you log on every once and again? You see more of those titles coming?
I think that Outriders is a test case. I think it's not just for like Microsoft to say, oh, can this work for us? I think it's going to be a test case in that Microsoft will say, hey, it worked for them when they go to talk to some other developers in the future. I think it's going to take some time for developers to be convinced that this is a good idea. I think Outriders was in a very specific situation where it was got a lot of bad word of mouth after the demo, or at least it clearly wasn't taking off on a trajectory of a lot of pre-orders or anything like that. And so Microsoft stepped up and said, hey, we can help you out there. And now, I mean, to your point about this being very exciting, I mean, of course it is, right? Because think about what are we talking about otherwise when we're talking about exclusives? Games that like, okay, I already have that system. You're going to pay to make it exclusive. All right. I mean, if you didn't do that, it was still probably going to come out to the system, right? Like I use like Final Fantasy as an example. Like if you're a PlayStation gamer and PlayStation is spending a lot of money to keep Final Fantasy VII Remake off of Xbox or to keep Final Fantasy 16 off of Xbox, how does that actually help you? How does that actually do anything for you? And it really doesn't, other than going to get in your flame wars on Twitter or on message boards. That's all it does to serve you. And most people don't care about that. The vast majority of people don't care about that. But if Microsoft took any similar amount of money and started doing stuff like, okay, yeah, we're not gonna do those third-party exclusives anymore. Instead, we're gonna use that money to help you get games earlier on Game Pass to the point where some of them might be day and date, so that you can get them as part of a subscription that you already have or you might want to join. That is a very tangible benefit. It makes a huge difference, and I think my guess here is that this is going to work out very well for everyone involved. Outriders will be associated with Xbox. It'll have a much better life than it would have had if it wasn't on Xbox Game Pass. And when Square Enix is in a situation again in the future where they're like unsure about a game, they're going to go back to Microsoft and say, hey, can we do that same deal again? And the gamers will benefit. And that's Mike. Now, is that going to happen anytime soon? I think it's probably going to take some time. We probably won't hear about another one of these until next year. I would be happy to be wrong about that, but
that's my
guess is like my guess is that we're going to have to wait and see for a little bit to how Outriders actually does.
Okay, Brap, I took the mic from you before. Did you have a question? I apologize, or a comment?
No, I was just going to say, like, a lot of people are talking about, like, the success of Game Pass having like this mindset of it needing to be successful overnight, and that this is more for the long haul. And it's like that's so true because unless you haven't been paying attention, there's something called Xbox Live, and that wasn't like an immediate like runaway hit when it first came out. Like a lot of it's interesting. A lot of the conversations I'm seeing over Game Pass, because I was a beta tester for Xbox Live, like what, 18, 19 years ago now.
Oh, you don't say, Brap.
Yeah, you're right. I don't say that enough, but if Luca's listening, she's like, oh God, here we go.
So great.
Again. No, but I mean, seriously, like a lot of the conversation then was very similar to what I'm seeing with Game Pass, where, oh, it's not going to work, or who's gonna upgrade their broadband their cable to broadband and pay more dollars than their AOL CD that they're getting free in the mail to get 56K. I mean, there's a lot of the conversations that were happening at the time. And look, over the course of 3 console generations, it worked. And I'm not saying that Game Pass is going to work. I'm just saying that these things take time. And if you provide content, if Game Pass gets the kind of content that I think it's probably going to get, then yeah, this thing might actually work. Because at the end of the day, we're gamers. The end game here is always content. It always has been. That's never going to change. And if they can somehow figure out how to deliver like content that we want day and date, and it's interesting. Like Jeff just brought up a great point. Like Sony locking down Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, it's I guess that's great for me. Financially speaking, though, $70 a pop, probably not great, but dumping that into a Game Pass type service at $15 a month plus 200 other games that might be attracted to me, that's actually something, like Jeff said, something very tangible, something I'm going to see in my wallet, and something that's going to provide me more value per se.
Now, I'll address like CSP in the chat. Like, well, you could say the same thing about the Bethesda deal that Jeff said about make Sony paying Final Fantasy to be exclusive. And I mean, I think that's why we used Outriders as the example. Outriders is different there, but also it's not a guarantee that all of the Bethesda games would have come to Xbox had Microsoft not made this purchase. I think a lot of those games wouldn't have gotten made. I think Arcane would have been closed. I think that these studios would have been on the chopping block, or this company might have been sold to Tencent instead. Might have been sold to Amazon, or maybe Google if Google didn't realize, before they was making a mistake getting into games.
Yes.
So it's slightly different there. But I overall I agree with that notion, and that's why I say, like, yeah, okay, Bethesda being exclusive or not doesn't really affect me, and I don't honestly care, because at the end of the day, I have a PC, I have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation 5. No matter where these games come out, I'm going to be able to play them. So we're just kind of speaking, academically and from the point of view of these companies in a lot of these cases.
Jeff, what's the theory behind, and shout out to Capone in the chat who asked this question, what's the theory behind why we're not seeing Outriders on Game Pass PC available?
I think that it probably wouldn't have the same effect as it does when it's on console Game Pass, and so and that just makes the deal even more expensive. And paying to keep it off of PlayStation is not the same as paying to keep it off of Steam. I think that not necessarily like keeping it off, but like attracting those people away from those platforms. And so I think that probably it just the juice wasn't worth the squeeze there. And so for Microsoft, Microsoft's not going to get that much out of it when doing it on console makes a much bigger difference.
I can see it hitting PC Game Pass later on. It just seems like when it comes to the PC player base, they tend to want to buy. Like, I mean, if you look at just the numbers themselves, a lot of people in those games hit Steam. Like even the Xbox exclusive games, it seems like it outperforms people that can literally have Game Pass and they'll just buy it on Steam. And it has a lot that has to do with just the infrastructure of the Windows Store when it comes to how Game Pass and the Microsoft Store are kind of tied together, and they just don't want to deal with that. And some people just rather just spend money on something than deal with that in general. But I do think at a later date, once because Jeff is right, I think they just don't see the value on the PC side of it when it comes to people downloading the games into Game Pass, but they might see a value in it later on down the line after the game already gets its sales on Steam, and they could just add more value to Game Pass for people that are on console. And if you just happen to have a PC, it's available there too.
Yeah, I think that the audience that also wants to play those games on PC are already on Steam. And the audience that might want to play these games on console, a lot of them probably are on Xbox. And if they're not, they could still buy it on PlayStation if they want, but they're just adding value to the Xbox gamer.
Let me ask you this, Jeff, because a lot of people in the audience are asking, because you mentioned it here. Well, I don't know if this is the only place you mentioned it, but you did mention it here. Do you still see what we talked about months ago about what the plan is possibly with Microsoft and Xbox Live Gold? I mean, when we last spoke, I think or maybe it was the 2 times ago, that we were thinking maybe it would go for free. Of course, they upped the ante there, because I thought that was basically them trying to push everybody into Game Pass Ultimate of some sort. Right. But do you still firmly believe that you will see that happen just in the future, or no, right now that's on hold?
I think it's still going to happen for sure in the future. It's just that timeline, I think it might be longer than I originally might have been thinking. Now, I think it was always on their timeline. Going free, making free to play free and not necessarily for Xbox Live Gold was definitely always on the timeline. And they just moved that up when they made their boneheaded call. And I think Xbox Live Gold will eventually go away. I think they're continuing to try to find new ways to add value to Xbox Live or Xbox Game Pass. Ultimate. And so but then like in the next year, probably not. So definitely a longer timeline than I originally said.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that ties in too, like you were saying. I think because you were on the show after that again, and you said something along the lines of, you said that this was normally supposed to be tied in with Halo Infinite because that whole thing went south, and the fact that they had to go back to the drawing board to a certain extent, that kind of moved their plans to the right as well.
Yes, yeah, exactly. They were always going to make the free-to-play thing free, and that was going to be with Halo Infinite. And then, so when that got delayed, yes, exactly, it just pushed things down the line a little bit further. And then now to react to the boneheaded move, they're like, let's just tell people we're doing that now, please.
Yeah.
That seemed to help because no one talks about that price increase anymore, right? Like you barely that was going to be like the biggest mistake of the year, or last year, whenever it was. I don't even remember anymore, and it barely ever comes up anymore. I'm surprised how well they handled that.
Yeah, I know it really, and like you say, I that whole catastrophe that happened, it only happened for 12 hours, right? We still talk about the whole price increase that happened, and then they retracted it. That didn't happen. That wasn't weeks, folks. It was hours.
Yep.
I mean, that was an amazing turnaround. Here you have a situation where that's the one thing I always say. You know, I'm just we do a lot more of the repairs for Xbox than Xbox does. You know, that being said, I do want to change subjects here slightly. We have the Square Enix Presents, which I don't know why they named it that. By the way, it's presents what. So I'm sorry, it bothers me. You know what I mean? It's like
presents what?
You know? So what are we doing? Anyway, listen, these are some of the games. Life is Strange, True Colors, Project Athia, which is now Forspoken, Outriders, they give us a little bit more of an in-depth look, Balan Wonderworld, if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. We got to look at Marvel's Avengers, the Black Panther and Hawkeye DLC, and Tomb Raider, and of course, like Just Cause Mobile, which a lot of people didn't care for much at all. But, I'll start with HR Bomber and E, just to give Jeff a break for a second, but Jeff, I definitely want to hear your take on on your thoughts on the show as well. What did you guys think about this? I mean, this is something that a lot of people said, Mooch, you're going to tune in? You're going to tune in? I'll be honest with you. I caught the highlights after. I didn't watch it live. I did watch it, but I watched the highlights later. Nothing really, really big here. Was anything I should take away from it? Of course, Forspoken was the big, I think, showstopper.
Oh yeah, I didn't actually watch any of it. The only thing I saw was the Project Athia getting the name Forspoken, which I kind of went.
Yep.
Some interesting names coming out for games going forward. We got Returnal, Forspoken, The Goop, all these these funny names. But other than that, I didn't really see much. The only thing I did see was there was an issue with Avengers saves on PS5 or something like that.
Yes, we got to talk about that as well.
Kind of going around. So I know you got a topic on that. But no, I mean, Project Athia looked pretty cool. It looks like something that's up my alley. Of course, definitely want to see more. But yeah, I didn't really tune in to check it out.
I almost like Project Athia more than I like Forspoken.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the same thing. It's
in a world.
It's a freaking name. I really can care less, to be quite honest.
This summer,
the game looks cool. I mean, I like. Anytime you have a character that has powers and you can destroy enemies, I'm kind of down for that.
Right.
But this one's a lot different, which is also what I like. It's kind of why I like Returnal as far as just the look of it. It's a different style game. Like you have this, protagonist that's going to be flying around the freaking map like a, I don't know, spider monkey. I don't know what it is. Like it's kind of crazy, but I like it.
I like that free range motion as well, Bomber. I think that's it's invigorating. It's something that I think it's funny. Somebody, was it you? And I apologize if it was. I just saw read a million tweets a day, right? Somebody said, this gives me that same satisfaction that I would get when I was playing Miles Morales or I was playing Spider-Man. It's that free form, right? It wasn't. You know what I mean? Somebody was.
I'm trying to remember who it was.
It's not the same thing, of course. I'm not comparing the two, but it's that free feels open world area where you can just roam and do whatever you want. So I don't know, to me personally, I didn't think there was anything there that was a showstopper. You could even see when the Project voice actress came on and she says, we got a little bit of a spoiler here. I was like, okay, well, we're not going to see much here. But it was something, they gave it a name because I think a lot of people were thinking that this may not even be a thing. So I think a lot of people, the skepticism at least, got quieted down a bit because now it's an actual game. It has a name and it has a release window. So at least, you know what I mean?
Right.
Jeff, is there anything that you took away from, the folks that you speak to that kind of made the show a little bit more special than maybe some of us at home that were catching the highlights missed?
Yeah, I think the only big takeaway for me is that I think this is indicative of the future and the state of E3. I think that, Square Enix starts up something like Square Enix Presents because this is how they're going to do these things going forward. And that means they don't need to go through the ESA to get gamers' attention. They can do this stuff on their own. They can establish their own team and practices to roll one of these out whenever they need to. And so when E3 comes back or the ESA tries to do one in person next year, is Square Enix going to attend that when they can just do one of these again for a lot cheaper? I lean towards no. I lean towards this being the way everyone's going. Bandai Namco has their Bandai Namco Next sort of thing. Everyone's going to just do Nintendo Direct instead, it seems like. So if we are going to go back to a normal sort of E3, it's probably going to have to be very different. And I mean that specifically about the amount of money it costs to participate in E3 when you have to pay the ESA to participate. That'll have to change. And that means probably someone else is going to have to do it. Someone else who has a way of making money in a way that doesn't just directly charge the vendors themselves. So I think that's the biggest thing I took away. As for the games themselves, I think Foregone. What was it called now? I already forgot the name. Forspoken. Thank you.
Yeah,
there might be a Foregone in the works for all I know.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. One of the Kingdom Hearts games, probably. Yeah. I don't know. It looks good, but I was definitely on the side of this doesn't look real until I saw that. So I'm like, okay, I guess I can start letting myself get excited for this thing now, which I definitely was not in that position beforehand. So I think you made a good point there, Mooch. But other than that, I'm like, yeah, there's some neat stuff here. I guess I'm glad they are doing these things. It says that they probably will have something in the June timeframe when they normally would have E3, and I think they said as much. So yeah, it was a fine show.
Yeah. No, I thought it was put together well. Go ahead, Brad.
Just real quick, I just want to say something that there's an article being written right now where Jeff Grubb has predicted the death or confirmed the death of E3.
Yeah, oh wow! Right. Yes.
Yeah. So
hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses. No, but all jokes aside, I will say this: the one thing that really, really, really intrigued me, and I think you guys have already touched upon this with now I forgot the name. Forspoken. I'm thinking Forsaken.
Forsaken's what I usually say for some reason.
But it's Forspoken. The traversal, the open world traversal looks really cool. Looks really cool.
A lot of people are really doing the one-to-one on the Epic. Remember when Epic did that Unreal Engine 5 demo?
Unreal Engine 5 demo.
A lot of side-by-side stuff there.
Yeah, it looks really good, but the traversal, the way she's like running up the rocks and kind of doing a spin, she actually reminds me of running to Thanksgiving dinner. By the way, when they let Brap know that dinner's served. Little
food reference, little insider note for everybody.
Yes, no, but it looks really cool. Like, I get the Spider-Man comparison because it's very fluid in that regard.
It's the fluid. It's the free roam. It's not necessarily any other relation there.
I gotta say, I'm really excited about this. Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that's definitely stood out to me, and one of the things I definitely dig about it is the fact that they're going with a black female protagonist.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You don't see that very often, so that's something that stands out.
Completely
definitely stood out to me. Seeing that.
Although if that game doesn't perform, I guarantee Square Enix says something about that's the reason why. Because Square Enix always comes up with very creative reasons for why their games fail.
They said, didn't they say something ridiculous about Battlefield? Was it Battlefield 5? No, that's not Square though. That's EA.
Not Square.
I thought it was EA. No, EA is the one that made a comment on that. I thought, was it not EA?
I don't know if it was exactly the same, but I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? They went with something along that same thing where they'll make something up to make up for the error that they caused. I do think that the show was pretty good. I do want to kind of get into something that, and Eve, it was you. I just said it a second ago. It really was something. So Marvel's Avengers gets that massive update, and I played Marvel's Avengers when it came out. But I believe it came out in August, right? Was it August or September of last year? But I was playing it.
September.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it. Listen. Look. It's not it wasn't great. It wasn't great. I'm not going to sell anybody on it.
The single player. The single player was actually pretty good.
I didn't mind it. I'm still playing it. But so we saw that they announced the Black Panther DLC and Hawkeye. I think a lot of people on the Sony front are still waiting for the Spider-Man DLC to kind of pick up there. That exclusive content that's supposed to be coming out. Now it looks like that got pushed to the right a bit. But nonetheless, I do want to kind of touch on the whole, fiasco that was going on. Listen, I talk to the great Paul Tassi from Forbes quite often. I go back and forth. Paul's a Destiny fan. I like Destiny as well. And, he had a bit of an issue with his migration transfer over of files from PS4 to PS5. I myself personally, I did not have that problem. I tweeted out right afterwards, and I was actually talking to him. I said, I even sent him the steps that I used. It was, quite easy, but it was a case-by-case basis because depending on the way that the saves transferred over, it has nothing to do with my case or your case. It depends on how things were working on the back end. That being said, I will say, Xbox has really stepped up on the, fixing everything as far as backwards compatibility, upgrades, anything like that, transferring over files. They've made it kind of seamless, and I will say this much. If I'm Xbox, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and pound my chest and say, listen, we did this right and be as loud as I can. Let's be honest. This really only works for a bit longer. After you get a year and a half into the generation, there's not a whole lot of games that you're really worried about, migrating your old saves over. And if you do, it's not going to make news. So, bravo to Microsoft for what they did do. But Jeff, you saw that caught a lot of attention yesterday. Paul tweeted that out. His really, really caught fire. That is an issue as it currently stands. Is that something that Sony can actually... You think that's something that they can work on and fix it while things are out there, or is this a problem that had to have been taken care of before consoles were launched in November?
They might fix it, but think about the motivation, right? I think you nailed it, right? This is something that, first of all, it's going to go away over time, so they might just wait for that. And it's not necessarily the kind of thing that people worry about before they make purchases. You buy the console and someone says, oh, hey, transferring your saves over is it could be a bit of a headache. You're like, oh, okay, what do you mean? And someone starts explaining it, you're like, okay, that sounds confusing, but I bet it won't be a problem. You're like, it's hard to imagine. It's not like when PlayStation was like, we're going to explain how to share a game on the PlayStation 4
right,
and how that's so much better than what Xbox is trying to do. People are like, oh man, I share games all the time. Wait, I'm not gonna be able to buy used games on Xbox? And then that thing, it takes off in people's imaginations because people can imagine themselves buying a used game. Everyone's done that. Everyone, it's a thing that takes root in your brain and lives there the entire generation. So Sony's Sony's smart. They know that people aren't necessarily thinking about this until it's already a problem. And at that point, they already got your money. They already got your money.
Right.
You already bought the game.
I'm so glad you
bought
said
the system. Maybe they'll fix it, but my money would be on they're gonna wait until this just isn't a problem anymore and just see it out. So it's a bummer, but honestly, they got bigger fish to fry, right? Because if this does go away, they still need to get SSDs working inside the console, replacing SSDs. They still got to get external storage working consistently. There are bigger issues that they are worried about fixing that our people are more angry about than even this. So,
no, you absolutely nailed it with the whole. They've already got the money at this point, and let's be honest, is it an issue today? Absolutely. And there's a lot of people that would argue with me, go, Mooch, it's not something that you can just pass to the side. I understand that. I get it. Believe me, I'm a customer too. I own one as well. I understand the complications and the frustration that a lot of people went through. However, like we're saying, once you get another, let's go ahead and say 6 months, 12 months out from here, these types of situations happen or occur really, really far and few in between. So Jeff's right. It's one of those things where Sony's probably like, we got to work on this. We got to show something, show good face some way. But do they have to kind of divert all their employees' attention to it? Not really. Not really at this point in time. They have other bigger fish to fry. I want to welcome the great Crap Gamer to the show. Crap Gamer made it here. Crap, I appreciate it. I know you had a hell of a day.
Yeah.
But we were talking about Marvel's Avengers, and me and you were talking yesterday about it. You still
downloading him.
You have it on every console now.
I'm still downloading it. So God, 107 gigs on Xbox, 74 gigs on PlayStation 5.
It is.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We were kind of going back and forth. That's a good point you bring up there. I think Microsoft did a hell of a job on their end of being able to transfer files and making back and pat so easy.
I kind of made a point today that it's kind of a toss up when you think about it, like that could be how games go the rest of this generation. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's pros and cons on both sides. You look at, say, the Series X, slightly higher resolution. PS5, it's lesser of an install. It has slightly better performance, better load times, and it has the haptic feedback that they're using with that and exclusive content with Spider-Man. Then you look over there at the save situation, and that favors Xbox. So really, it's really kind of a toss-up on what you're really kind of interested in. You know what I mean?
It is.
So,
Both have their strengths.
I kind of find that very interesting. I haven't played the Xbox version yet, but I played it on PS4 Pro when it first came out for a little bit, and then I wanted to wait for the updates to come, and they got delayed, of course. But I should give it something to do with all delays this year. Going back and grinding a little bit and playing through that game should be a little bit of fun. But yeah, I think it's weird the way that Sony did their thing. Clearly, Microsoft has the advantage when it comes to like the older stuff, like the backwards compatibility and the ability to share and like update. It should be there. I get that. You know what I mean? Like I don't really understand that at all. Like, man, I like the way it's pretty seamless, but they really had kind of designed for that well ahead of Sony. Sony's just like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Microsoft.
It is surprising though,
last gen.
isn't it?
Well, remember that Microsoft started doing that with the Play Anywhere stuff in 2015. So, they're like, okay, well, we wanted you to be able to pick up on one and then pick up on the PC and then also in the cloud or whatever. So it makes sense. And that's their whole forte. The whole cloud stuff is really their thing. So I'm not surprised that it works better. Bravo to them. I hope Sony gets that shit fixed up, because it is kind of cumbersome and it's definitely not a good thing to have to, I played like maybe 3 or 4 hours.
Right.
I don't want to play through that again. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's funny you say that, but shout out to Fran Mirabella over at I don't know if he's with Kind of Funny or who he's with right now, but he's got like over 100 hours into Marvel, and he did end up getting it worked out. But he was literally freaking out last night, and he did it in a very comical way. And I knew, tweets are one thing, and then when somebody, if you're gaming, as long as all of us have been gaming, you put 100, 150 hours into a game, and you can't transfer your saves over. Like, you can go ahead and make a funny tweet. Everybody who's reading that tweet, you're like, this guy ain't laughing on the other end of the phone. I got news for you. You know what I mean? So shout out to Fran for actually having a sense of humor about it. I got a couple super chats here. Shout out to the great WoolleyGamer. He says, sorry, I'm late to the show, guys. What an epic week. It really was. Like I said, this is a great week. A lot of things happen as far as games in general are concerned and news in the industry. It's Joker76 says, Bethesda, you lose yourself for weeks and weeks in their games. Game of the Year material, God of War, done in 3 weeks, platinum, and done. Or that's all. Joker,
don't badmouth God of War.
Well, you could, I was gonna say you could kind of play that game over and over again. A lot of people play that to exhaustion because it's so good. TrueWiddy says, curious question: if Microsoft buys more publishers, would you care if they raised Game Pass to, let's say, $25 to $30 a month? So that would be a turnoff for Game Pass. That was, it's funny. Shout out to the chat. They're really asking some great questions, and we did touch on this, guys. Forte knows this, Crap knows this, Brap knows this from last week. We discussed this last week. What would be that cutoff number? We always say that, right? It's easy to say $10. It's $10 a month, Mooch. Calm down. You drop that in your couch cushion. I got it. I get it. But realistically, what happens when everything goes up, right? Netflix was $8.99. Now it's $14, $15, $16.99 a month. So eventually the $9.99 is going to go to $15.99. The $15.99 is going to go to the $20.99. And, the natural progression. What is the number where you start to say, you know what? I'm out. I mean, is there a number there, Jeff, that you think maybe freaks out the audience? And I'm talking about the general audience, maybe not anybody particular, in general on the panel.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a hard time going anywhere over $15 per month. So they're in a tough position. I think they'll have to get creative. I think they might look at tiers. I think that's a possibility where if you so right now you get with $15 a month, you get Xbox Live Gold, you get Game Pass, you get EA Plus or EA Play is in there as well.
Right.
You get Game Pass on PC. Now, maybe if they want to add like Ubisoft Plus on top of that, which I know is the rumor, I think that, okay, maybe that is that $5 extra per month. If you want to add that, like you just make that part of your thing, or maybe it's $3 extra a month. So it's like you save a little bit rather than doing Ubisoft separately. That's a possibility. I don't think they have any intention of like raising the base price anytime soon, which I guess what does that mean? Definitely not in the next year. Definitely not. Probably not in the next 2 years.
Right.
And the reason, like, that's why when we said that, like, the thing was only 12 hours for the Xbox Live Gold price increase, the reason we said that, the reason they did that was because they didn't want people thinking that they were going to do the same thing with Game Pass. They were horrified that people were making that connection. And so when they saw people doing that and going on and said, well, of course they're doing this with Xbox Live Gold.
Yeah.
They're going to do it with Game Pass. They're like, okay, no, pull the plug, undo this immediately. Let's make it clear that we're not trying to do that to players. But that doesn't mean they won't do it eventually. I just think that eventuality is still a ways away.
I completely agree with that. There's no way. They're still in the, I'm going to go ahead and say this, even though we have been privy to it for so long, they're still in the honeymoon phase with a lot of customers. So no,
they're kind of locked in.
Yeah.
Because what happens is people look at them and oh, there's such a value Xbox value, right? So the minute, really, they're kind of held hostage in a way. Because
the $5 foot long, right?
Yeah.
As soon as the $5 foot long isn't $5 anymore, everyone's like, "Fuck Subway, I'm never going there again."
And that's a great example. That happened when they left the $5
exactly
plan.
what happened.
It dropped like a sack of rocks. It did.
I left Subway way before that when I saw the little blue tinge on their meat. You know what I'm talking about? That blue shimmer. Yeah.
That's just taste. That's just flavor. That's just flavor you're talking about.
I ain't been to the Subway in 5 years. What is this?
You're a smart man, Forte. You were a smart man. I gotta be honest with you guys. I would pay $20 a month if there were a lot of games in Game Pass and there were good games. That would be my threshold.
They'd have to keep doing like I don't like. I heard you guys talking a little bit on my ride home. For me, the Game Pass, the first thing that they've done that's really impressed me was Outriders, because it's a third-party day-and-date game.
Yep.
I like that.
The other stuff, the other stuff doesn't impress me. I want to see some more of that. And then I think it might be worth more. You know what I mean? Like, for me, this is the first time, in 2.5 years that I've had Game Pass, I've downloaded 3 games. Outriders is the first that I've really been excited about. So, if they keep doing stuff like that, I think it's really a good chance that this thing could pick up. And I mean, I know it's already doing well for them, but I mean, for somebody like me, right. Because most things that I'm interested in, listen, if I was going to get that game, I was going to buy it on PS5. Right? They swayed me instead to download it and play it on Xbox.
That's right.
Okay, I'm sure that's what they want. And that's what, if they want to keep doing that, then they have to keep doing that with good. Now, is that game going to be good or not? That's another story. But for me personally, I think this is the first time I've been actually excited about something in terms of what they're doing with Game Pass. I really like, because Mooch, we talked about this 2 years ago.
Yes.
And you mentioned, oddly enough, Bethesda games. You're like,
I did.
Well, maybe not the big AAA tiers of EA or Activision, but why not Bethesda games like Evil Within or Wolfenstein 2?
That's right.
Because those games usually go on sale within a couple months anyway, because they aren't they don't sell 20 million copies. They usually.
I said an example. My number one example. You're right, Crap, and thank you for bringing it up. My number one example was Evil Within 2 that had just come out. I said Evil Within 2 would do outstanding in Game Pass. And
I remember these conversations.
Yeah. But I appreciate it because no one else does.
Yeah.
The thing about it is that those are the types of games where you say, I'm about to go out to the store right now. Okay, you like this? I'm dating ourselves back when digital wasn't a thing. And now we're all 90% digital. But hear me out. You say, I'm about to walk out to the door and go drop $60 on a game. Bang, this thing day and date in Game Pass. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of game that I want to have, show up. And don't get me wrong.
You were talking about casuals earlier, and yes. I think that that audience, I think the way to get to them is sports games. I really do. I think
that's true too. Yes.
I think if you get NBA 2K, which I know would be really expensive, but if you got NBA 2K on Game Pass day and date,
yes,
I think that would just be massive for sales of the console. I think that, alternatively, if you want to work closely with EA to help them bring back their basketball franchise, help get that thing back in order, and then you offer that on Game Pass as part of that deal, I think something similar if it can compete. I just that's the key for a large part of that audience. I think is sports games.
I completely agree. Sports.
Sports and Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. I don't know if we'll ever see that happen. I don't ever speak in absolutes. I'll never say never. But Forte, that makes a hell of a point. You put sports games day and date. That's why everyone's like, Mooch, come on. EA Play, baby.
You'd have to wonder how much I don't want to play for Call of Duty.
Yeah, I don't want to play 2019, 2020 Madden. Even if I was a Madden fan, I don't really think
it's the same game anyway.
Right, that's very true. And they screw you on the rosters.
I would tell people to buy Game Pass if they try to pick up a copy of NBA 2K21 and it was in Game Pass on day one. Be like, what are you doing? I literally would do that. I would literally do it. At that point, it's a better benefit and then you just talk about like, yo, you're not even going to be playing this game in the next year after that year. Why, it's like that old saying, like, why buy sports games digital when you're never going to get any value out of them after that first year. But when it comes to Game Pass and that's absolutely true. I always tell people the casual base will not move into, like, especially like this gen. You won't see a huge move into next gen until the sports games and Call of Duty move. When they say we're not making these games for previous platforms, that's when you usually see the big injection to the next system, because those games move the needle. People may think that, all these other games we talk about are like these exclusive games are the ones that really push the platform. They're just the ones that whet the appetite for people. Once they decide that these games aren't available anywhere else, and I'll even include something like Grand Theft Auto in there too. When they say that these games are available on this platform only, that's where people are going to go, and they're going to do it in mass droves. And and you're talking about PlayStation's going for $500, for $700, $800, $900. Let them kind of say the next Call of Duty is available on the PS5. Those systems going to jump right back up in price, especially if we're in the middle of this pandemic, and people will pay those prices because they want to play those games. And if you can only do it on the next gen, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. I do want to bring something else up. I want to kind of jump over to this because, a lot of people on Twitter were talking about it. And then I had a great conversation yesterday about the EVO championship that PlayStation bought. And I was kind of scratching my head about it. I said,
it's big.
It's big, but I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell the audience that it's something I watch. So, I mean, it's not something that I particularly think is the hugest deal. But I'm gonna read something here real quick. So shout out to the great J-Dub City. Me and Jay were talking yesterday. He says, just to name, the recognition will push PlayStation further in Japan, China, India, Europe, and US. ESPN deals and everything is solidified under PlayStation. He says to me, Mooch, he says, Smash Brothers, Capcom, all the big tournaments now reside under PlayStation badge. So, the one thing about it is, even if it's not something that you watch, like myself, I don't watch the EVO championships. This has got global recognition. And I mean, again, I'm going to Jeff here as our special guest. Jeff, anything on your front when you saw, and you made a great tweet making the joke, Brian, reminded me of the boss in Christmas Vacation. Get me somebody on the phone and get me somebody while I'm waiting. Anybody, right? So when you said that, it was outstanding. But does the EVO, does that buy do anything? And the reason I think it does to a certain extent, if anything, just for marketing purposes, when you look at FIFA, right, and you look at the marketing rights that gets, and then you look at all the soccer games that are going on in Europe, don't affect the Americans over here, but you see PlayStation written all over the sides of all the soccer games in Europe. It's a huge push for the brand. Is this a similar type of marketing thing that Sony's trying to kind of corner, or am I missing another part of this big deal?
I guess. The thing is that like PlayStation already has that position at EVO. Like every game that isn't like every like multi-platform game at EVO is already played on a PlayStation.
Right, except for Killer Instinct. You're right. Yeah.
I mean, if it's only playable on Xbox, they play it on Xbox. Right. But otherwise, everything's already on a PlayStation. PlayStation's already heavily involved. PlayStation's like streaming Mortal Kombat three days a week on Twitch, and like 50 people are watching or whatever. I don't know. To me, this just seems like they might have done this because EVO was having sort of it was falling apart a little bit from the inside. It's had some issues, and I think probably EVO was either cheap or it was going to literally fall apart, and then there would be no EVO. So Sony's like, well, let's just buy it and keep doing it ourselves, or some combination of those factors. I think that Sony was like, well, let's just spend a little bit of money, make sure that the players can keep coming here and keep playing fighting games. We care about that enough to spend this money. I don't know if there's some like big long-term money-making play here. Like they don't expect to make money from esports. That's something that's just not going to happen.
Right.
Marketing, they'll treat this as marketing, absolutely. But beyond that, I don't know if this is something that we're even going to be thinking about a year from now. And I wouldn't be surprised if a few years from now, if EVO does have more internal issues, if Sony doesn't back off from it and say, actually, we're going to try to sell this thing or just shut it down or something like that. That's where I'm at with this.
Yeah, I thought they probably did pick it up reasonably. I don't want to use the word cheap by no stretch of the imagination, but probably for a decent price, for the mere fact that, with the pandemic, especially unable to get the audiences packed in there. and maybe they had some other internal issues at the organization before, so they picked it up. But I mean, Brap said it. He said it's big. I've talked to people. They say it is a large event. It's a big thing.
I mean,
it's huge. Yeah,
it's a big event. Like I have cousins that like are big into esports, and like EVO is something that always comes up in conversation with them. And I really don't watch EVO or esports per se, but it is big. Like, and I do think I have this theory. Again, this is a theory. I do think there's this pent up, like, I don't know how to describe, like, not frustration, but like I think when things go back to normal, whenever that is, right? Whenever we get out of this pandemic and life goes back to the way it is, I think people are just gonna go nuts. I think there's gonna be lots of babies born. I think
that's already happening.
I was gonna say,
I think there's gonna be
do you think a pandemic actually helped that? You ain't got nowhere to go, but lay next to that woman that you laid with for all your life.
Exactly. And I think you're just gonna see like the world, like, for lack of a better word, explode. I think like anything that's social, like any kind of social event that you couldn't do, I think it's just gonna go gangbusters. And I think and I equate that to EVO. I think it's just gonna be one of those things where people are gonna go out in masses to do it because they haven't been able to do it for a long time. So I think there might be like a
interesting
small blip.
Interesting take. Yeah.
I think there's going to be a small, like, I think people are going to go nuts at the movie theaters. Like whenever you can go back to movie theaters and watch a movie.
I do too. I really do.
Yeah,
I get your skepticism there, Forte. I can hear it in your voice. But
I love movies.
But I think they're going. I think they're going to go back.
I love it.
But I do. I really do. And I think like EVO's kind of a big social event. Like if you like you talked about like spring break in Florida. I know. There's I mean they're kind of going gangbusters right now.
They do that anyway.
But there's events like Winter Music Conference.
It's much crazy right now.
Yeah, like WMC, Ultra Fest. I think like stuff like that is just going to go gangbusters because people haven't been able to do that stuff for like 2 years now, and I think something like EVO, it's just going to blow up. And it's
I agree with all that. Yeah, I agree with all that. I still don't think it's going to be worth it in terms of like esports dollars. It's marketing still, but I think you're right. I think you're right that yes, there's a lot of pent up demand for any sort of event, and I think that's why Sony wanted to rescue EVO. But I do think it's a rescue. Like a lot of people like in chat are saying I'm downplaying it. I don't. Sony already owned fighting games. They already owned the fighting game market. That's the whole point. Is every console at EVO was already a PlayStation. So what is Sony really doing here? Like, oh, we're finally going to take over the fighting game market. Homie, you already owned it. So what is the difference? And the difference is, I think they're just trying to keep it alive. So why? I just don't know why I should be super excited about this thing where it's like Sony. This is already Sony's wheelhouse. I'm glad that they're keeping it alive. I mean, sure, that's great.
I don't think it's something. I don't think it's something you'd be excited for. I just think it's a move that they're making, like you said, around marketing. I think I do think in some way it is a big move for them, just for the simple fact that overall, yes, they do own that fighting market as it is with pretty much every game that is promoted is pretty much on EVO that is PlayStation exclusive, with the exception of something like Mortal Kombat 11. Mm-hmm. But I think they just look at it as we want to keep that competitive. That's like one of the competitive things they have when it comes to PlayStation. They have that market and they want to promote that market. And if EVO was to disappear, then you still own the fighting game community when it comes to that stuff. But where are you showing it at? So at least when EVO does finally come back around, or the limited streaming they do of the events and stuff like that, at least they do have a way to showcase that ability. So, we all know that big numbers do sell. And when it comes to like PlayStation events and stuff that's, sponsored by them, they all usually do relatively well when it comes to just them in general. So I think that is probably the more power move in the thing, just to, not just to be relevant in it, but just to promote it in the fact, like, this is where you want to be on a competitive side. And then if you want to play other games on top of that, we're also one of the best places to do that too. You shouldn't be super excited for it, but I do think it was a good move for them to make, because it's like they got to spend that money somewhere. And if that's going to be something that's going to benefit them in a marketing term, then that's a good move for them to make.
I agree with all that. Yeah. And just I think a lot of people are like, oh, this is the biggest deal ever. And it's like, I go to
acquisition FOMO.
It's absolutely what it is. But I go to twitch.tv/PlayStation when they are running those Mortal Kombat streams multiple times per week. They're showing Mortal Kombat esports fighting. and it's on all the time, and the audience is always sub 100 people. Like all these people are like, oh man, this is great. Fighting games like PlayStation, like this is a huge deal. You're not watching those things. I know you're not. You're just trying to make a big deal out of Sony making a big acquisition. And I just think that this is a smart move in terms of protecting their marketing plans, and that's cool. But why is anyone else excited about that? I don't get that.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, as far as the excitement goes and all that, like I said, the only thing you can be excited is if you are a true fan. And like I said, I've never watched one myself, so I can't contribute to that. But if you are a true fan, this is something that, like you said, Jeff, if they are running into financial or issues,
yes,
Sony
you should be grateful.
Yes, Sony
grateful
coming in there and saving the day.
Yeah.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yes. You are lucky that Sony was there. Yes.
I do want to talk about this. This is interesting. So Returnal's an interesting game, and it's I think it'll be a great game, but hear me out. It's one of those games when I first saw it, I was kind of like, all right, what's going on here? House Marquee's taking they're dipping their big toe into the pool of AAA, the AAA experience. And I've always, I like their Next Machina. They've had Resogun, they've had a couple other games. But they go ahead and it looked like it was just going to be Groundhog's Day in space, right? So I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. Yeah, I'll take it for a grain of salt. But every single time I see a story trailer or a gameplay trailer that keeps coming out for it, the game looks better and better and better. And I gave a great analogy on Brap this past Wednesday. And I'll say it again here and I'll shorten it down a bit. If you go back and watch the evolution of something like Doom, back when it was on our PCs back in, God, when did Doom actually come out? Was it 1997, 1998? I don't know what it was.
Earlier
2000, or maybe even earlier than that.
Yeah.
And you see where we were,
yeah.
right? Where we were from there to what we got in Doom to 2016 and, of course, Doom Eternal. If you look at the natural progression of what House Marquee can do and how they have their fighting mechanic, their gameplay, their style, and now you add that into a 3D world, very similar to how Doom went and took their game and metamorphosized it into what it is now, which is amazing. I know a lot of diehard Doom fans are going to tell me, Mooch, you're full of it, but I can never really go back and play those original Dooms anymore after the Doom that I'm experiencing right now. It's the same fast pace, but to have that open world is just amazing. What House Marquee is doing right now and giving us that 3D space is just something short of outstanding. I'm looking very, very much forward to this game. And the one thing I wanted to ask, again, Bomber, chime in here if you want. I want to hear what Bomber's take is on this because he's always got great opinions, especially when it's on Sony's new first-party games. It's not first-party game, pardon me. One of Sony's new games. What do you think about this game, first of all? What do you think about the natural progression of what you've seen from the House Marquee family as they've gone through different iterations of games? And we've got a $70 title, okay? Is this $70 title, after you give your opinion on what you think of the game, does it fluctuate your opinion on a day one buy?
I mean, for me, I don't know if the $70 makes a hill of beans to me, to be honest. It's a new game. I think it looks incredible. To be quite honest, it does look really good. It's something different, and I think that's something that a lot of people loved freaking Death Stranding for, was that it was completely different, something kind of out of the box that nobody really knew about. And this was kind of the same thing. Like you said, you didn't really know what this was going to be, and then they kind of show it off. You're like, okay, we can kind of run with it. Then they kind of show off the whole fact that, like, when you go into like those certain buildings and stuff, that it goes into first person mode, which could be kind of creepy in a way. So I think that's kind of cool too. I think that's probably one of the coolest things about it that you don't see from other games, especially in this particular genre that kind of has made itself in a sense. Because it's like a third person action adventure roguelite slash I don't even know, like it shooter kind of looter kind of thing. It's pretty cool. And for me, if I had a PlayStation 5, absolutely, I probably would get it day one, $70 or not. I don't really care because I'm just interested in the game. And I think that's where a lot of people, get so their panties up in a bunch about this. Oh, $70. Like, well, if you're into the game, it doesn't matter how expensive the game is. I see people freaking throw the $120 for 2K21 because it has Kobe on it. Okay, well, cool. That's their prerogative. That's their money. So if they're excited for it, sweet. I could care less for all the extra little coins, but I think this game has a opportunity to actually make a huge splash that a lot of people are probably kind of like just sitting back with. But again, I think the $70 could be an issue too. I think that's, everybody's like, well, it's a new IP. It's, And maybe it looks AAA, maybe it doesn't. But I'm like, look, if they say it's AAA, if the devs are coming out and saying this is a AAA, this is what they consider their AAA, okay, then it is.
Right.
I can't say otherwise personally. I don't even care.
It's not even Sony's first attempt at a $70.
No.
Demon Souls was $70.
Exactly. So is oh crap. I mean 2K.
Right, I was gonna say 2K, even Call of Duty.
Yeah, Call of Duty. I mean, and people are buy those.
It's
in
an
droves,
industry. It's an industry move at this point, isn't it, Bomber? I mean, it's not necessarily a one company to point the finger at.
No, I mean, I think yes, you're gonna have like Sony was definitely the first, I guess, big publisher / company that's gonna say, hey, we are pretty much wanting to have $70 games as our norm. At the very beginning, and that's gonna probably change depending on the title. I mean, we've kind of seen an awesome thing like Kena it's $40, and I'm like, holy crap, what? But seeing Returnal at 70 is kind of tough. But then, I mean, it's a pretty good studio that's making this game, so maybe they put a lot more money into this game than some other titles, and it warrants that $70.
Jeff, tell me if you like this. I think this $70 thing. It only helps Game Pass. And this is my pitch. I think that, Microsoft is going to also join the $70 physical release.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And they're going to say, well, that's fine. You don't want to buy it? Yes. $9.99 a month. We got another option, right?
$70. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Halo's going to be $70, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So at least you're in the same bandwagon with me on this. I think this, and I say, why not? Right? Why wouldn't you? Because they have options.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I will say that, yes. I mean, it only helps. You're right. It only helps Game Pass, and it even helps Game Pass even more if Microsoft games are all $70 going forward. They're going to do that, I think, without a doubt. If they don't do it with Halo, it'll start in 2022. But I honestly, if I were them, I would raise Halo to $70 and just say, yeah, if that's too much for you, we have other options. I think that's a good way of framing it. I'll say, like for something like Returnal, I am afraid of getting excited for that game because $70 is a lot of money, and
absolutely,
I don't want to pay that money, and so it's like it's easier to be like to hold it at an arm's distance and just say if people start hyping this thing up when it starts coming out, then I will start considering buying it. But I really like Housemarque games a lot. And this game does look, like you said, it looks better and better and better every time they show it, and it's like combining like those improving like visuals and like the panache that is going into this game with Housemarque's incredible arcade style gameplay. And if they can make that turn that, and if they can add the structure on top of that and make it a game that I want to play for a long period of time, I'm going to have a hard time saying no to it, even at $70, just because I do like Housemarque games so much. It's like if Hades was $70, I would have paid $70 for Hades, no doubt. It was absolutely worth more than what I paid for it.
Most of us have bought Hades now on two different systems, and if it comes on PS5, I'll buy it again. So they're going to get 70 almost out of us anyway, right, Jeff? I mean,
exactly. Yeah, exactly what I mean. So yeah, but I think you're right. I think Microsoft's going to make that change here pretty soon. It'll be interesting to see when they announce it. Probably at E3, try to like drop it in among all the other hype stuff that they might try to announce, so that people don't notice it as much. But yeah, I do expect them to try to pull that off this year.
Right. Well, everybody's applauding really loudly. They'll be like, and it'll be $70, and then Phil kind of just shuffles off stage. Go ahead, Forte. My fault.
Yeah. I think I have 2 different ways of looking at this. So when it comes to Returnal, I'm interested in the game. I'm not interested at $70. I will buy it after. It won't be a day one thing because it's at the moment we just got way too many games to play. But after I probably get the opinion of a couple people that I trust enough, see some more gameplay, probably get a chance to try it out before I pick it up. If it's everything that it looks like, I mean, yeah, I'll spend the $70. It's just like Jeff just said, it's just hard to just say this game that I know absolutely really nothing about, I'm about to just drop to $70. It's a lot easier to do that on the game that you kind of already know what it is, or like an existing franchise. It's like, well, prices of games go up. That's why people were willing to spend $70 on Demon Souls, because they kind of knew what that game was already, and it wasn't something that they were really truly afraid of. But when it comes to Xbox, I do agree they are going to go to $70 route. I just don't know how I would feel about Halo doing it, knowing that the single player and multiplayer is going to be free.
That's a good point.
Because if the multiplayer is going to be free, like they said, I'm
campaign to be $70.
Yeah, I'm not. I
That's a
just
very
don't.
good point.
And then you got Game Pass where it's going to be available at. I mean, I'm already skeptical on it being $60 and it just being a campaign.
Yeah.
And they're literally giving, unless they're giving you a lot. I mean, not a real lot of value in the multiplayer where they're going to have some elaborate, upgrade scheme where you got different abilities and things that you could buy for your character, and it comes like pretty much like how VC, like how NBA does with their like Mamba edition they did this year. They give you so much stuff in there, it justifies the $100 that you're paying for it. I that's where I just look at Halo. Like I never talked about it, but I was like, yo, if Halo is $60, what am I really buying? I mean, I know I'm gonna probably get hopefully a phenomenal single player. That's what we're all hoping for as Halo fans. But they already announced that the single player is going to be, completely separate and free. And that's the thing that I'm wondering, especially with the $70 price tag. I probably would look at that real sideways as a person that wants to buy that game at full price, knowing that the offering isn't the full game at that full price because you get some of it somewhere else.
Well, I got to ask E. You always kind of chime in on these subjects, and I got to be honest with you. What you say usually holds a lot of weight. What do you think about something like this? I mean, I know that I think at least I've talked to you enough to know that Returnal's is caught your eye now, and I mean,
right.
But it is risque, right? I mean, they could have very easily said, "Listen, we want House Marquee to do well." People are saying that Sony may acquire this team if this game does well. Maybe Sony waiting and giving this one a cheaper price tag may have helped it. What's your take on it?
Returnal's a tough one, like to say, just for the fact that it's a new IP, but we don't know like a tremendous amount about it. But for some reason, they're standing on their square about it.
Right.
Where you look at something like Kena, they're like, okay, it's 40, so that kind of says to me maybe it's a shorter game, it's something like to that effect or something. And let's not get it twisted. Game length does not always equate to why it needs to be so expensive, whatever. Because we have some games that overstay their welcome at full price.
Absolutely.
And I played some games that were shorter for the same price, but I'm like, I'll, like Jeff just said, like, hands down, that game was worth it and more, right? So we'll see as time goes on about like Returnal, like what some of the feedback is and everything else. Like, it's definitely caught my eye. It's definitely a game I think I want to pick up and play. But yeah, I'll be honest. I'm gonna kind of wait to see kind of how it stems out. But 100%, I'm interested in it. But let's not get it twisted. People keep going on this thing, and again, this is to me is a gaming bubble conversation on Twitter.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm looking at the NPDs when Matt throws them out there, and $70 games are not stopping anybody. Because, and let's not get it twisted, Xbox has $70 games too. I know there's this back and forth about, well, Xbox has Game Pass, so it's not really a thing. And then so Sony's out here charging $70. It's like, no, you have third-party developers who kind of started the trend, and they're, the market is kind of dictating. But I'm seeing from like 2K and Call of Duty and these other games that's
exactly right.
People are paying the $70 for the games. And here's another thing, like, I keep in touch with a lot of my casual friends who have nothing to do with Twitter,
right?
Or anything like that. They don't even know what's going on. Case in point, I remember I texted a couple of my buddies one day. I was like, "Yo, man," I was like, "Microsoft just bought Bethesda," and they're like, "What does that mean?"
What does that mean to me?
Like, yeah. What is that? I don't know what that. Is that a big thing? I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. And I explained it to them. Like, oh, okay, and then they got it.
Right.
I have friends, who've picked up, Xboxes, picked up PS5s, or whatever the case may be. I have not had one of them hit me up and say, "Yo, what's up with these $7 games?"
Right.
They picked up Miles, they picked up, whatever, and they're like 2K. I haven't had one of them hit me up and say, "What's up with the 70?" They just see a game that they want, and they're like, 70? Okay, that's what we're doing. Let's go.
Yeah, the gamers that I know in my real life, they play NBA 2K, they play Call of Duty, and that just about wraps it up. So the thing about it is, right? So the point of that,
I said was $70 games. I'm not talking first party games.
But they didn't.
I'm talking. There are $70 games on Xbox right now.
But what's funny about it though is,
just real quick, Returnal is not Call of Duty or NBA.
No.
I'm
not saying it. No, not at all.
Not even. No. That's not the correlation at all. No, I'm just trying to make my point here is going back to E's original statement. I think we kind of sidetracked a bit from the Returnal conversation. It's about people on the social media that we all exist in the community. They're saying that it's Sony. And realistically, what ended up happening here is you've got Sony, yes, was there for the party when it started, but that's because they had a first party where they had a game come out of that caliber. If Halo came out, I still think Halo would have been $70 even if it was last November. Because they would have said, well, wait, you're doing Demon Souls for $70? Oh, we're definitely worth 70.
I don't think.
Can I say one other thing, Mooch? And the thing is, I'm not sitting here advocating and saying, hey, it is what it is. We're $70 games. Like, look,
No.
I watch my wallet. I'm like,
Absolutely.
That's the thing.
I'm not
going to sit and dictate to what value is to someone else, because I can go right now with my family to the movies and pay $150 to see a 2-hour movie.
Right.
Or not say $150, but you know what I'm saying? By the time you do popcorn, food,
20 per person. Yeah.
They're about
But you can spend a lot of dough going to a movie.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, I don't think Microsoft is going to charge $70 until they get out of the whole cross-gen stuff, because they're doing the free upgrade anyway. So why wouldn't people just buy the Xbox One version or whatever? And you know what I'm saying? Like, I always said that, like, people go, well, how do you know I fully think they will charge $70 a piece as well, but not until after they get done with that cross-gen stuff. Because like I said, if you're doing the free upgrade thing, it doesn't make sense to, charge $70 right now. Wait till they have the fully true, like I think Fable, Val, those games are probably going to be $70. Like next gen only.
That's a good point, Crap.
What about and I heard you guys talk about Starfield earlier.
Yes.
Wasn't that announced for next gen only? I'm not sure if it was originally announced for next gen consoles only or not.
They didn't say one way or the other.
Yeah.
They implied, I think, but
I mean, if it's Series X only, then maybe you could see a $70 price point there. Right? I mean, that wouldn't surprise me.
Absolutely.
And then all that does is just add value to Game Pass.
Well, that's the thing I'm trying to say. That I think Microsoft can use the $70 ploy in their favor. They're not going to get any bad press on this one. It doesn't matter. They can charge $70 for Halo 2 crap, because don't get me wrong, your point holds water. I can't even diminish what you're saying. But what I'm saying to you is,
but people keep thinking like, well, they would never do that. It's like they just tried to raise live prices on you.
yeah, I mean, of course. Why wouldn't they?
Things. I mean, people got to stop this whole thing of like, oh, they care. These
they don't
give a damn. None of them give a damn.
No, yes. If you think a company cares about you, you have been successfully manipulated.
Yes,
always what it is.
Easily.
Yes.
All I expect from a company is to do what they're going to do. The relationship is, I have dough. They want to separate me from my wallet.
So it's capitalism at its finest, right? Either they have a service or an item. You have the capital. You hand that to them. They give you that service or that item. That's how it works, right? And if you don't like that product or you don't like that price, you retain your money. You keep it. They don't get it. They don't make that money, and they either falter or lower their price. So I mean, that's business Moochonomics 101. But I mean,
can I just emerge?
Sure.
Somebody did get their money out of Avengers.
Say again?
I just sat here and said, I'm not going to dictate what is value to somebody else. Because let's break it down, okay? If you want to do let's do the Game Pass talk, and we'll do the Netflix talk.
Mm-hmm.
I have Netflix. I may watch a movie a month on it,
right?
But I still pay for it, right?
Am
I getting a value out of it? I am, because I allow my family members to watch Netflix. They watch a lot more than I do,
right?
But if it was just me, that's not a value to me. I'm not really getting the value out of it, right?
That's
so
a good
if someone
point.
gets Game Pass, if they're paying, they have to decide for them if that's the value. But if you're paying for Game Pass monthly and you're not even really finishing a game, or maybe you're starting a game, maybe someone says that's not a value to them. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not dictating what value is. That's on the person. But we have to stop this thing. Well, it's tremendous value. That is up to the person to decide whether that's the value or not.
Value is in the eye of the beholder.
That's correct. That is 100% accurate. I truly believe that. That's the whole thing.
I mean, listen, water is a good value to somebody that's in a desert. Okay, but it's not a good value to somebody drowning in the ocean.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
That's a great point. Yeah.
Well, most of us, like I said, most of us wouldn't have jumped in. Most of us didn't. A lot of people didn't have Game Pass when they first announced. A lot of us was like, "Yeah, we
couldn't give it away.
Yeah,
we just couldn't give that shit away.
Yeah,
buy our games and stuff." But then I just remember the moment that the dollar deal started, then the value kicked in, and we were like, "Yo, 3 years of Game Pass for $1. Let's go upgrade your Xbox Live to 3 years."
Right.
It was a no-brainer for me.
It was it was a no-brainer.
$1.
That's not saying that Game Pass, because overall a lot of people still felt like it was a tremendous value. And guess what? The value that it is right now is worth the $15 a month. But back then a lot of people didn't feel that way. But it's perceived differently depending on the person. You really can't tell somebody that this is super valuable, because to them value is completely different. Yeah. I may say something that's $300 is valuable to me, but that's because I can afford it.
Right.
If that's what it really comes down. If you can afford something that nobody else can afford, to you that might be value, but to everybody else, that like, you're crazy. I don't know what tax bracket you're in, and I need to be moved into that tax bracket to be able to enjoy these things like you are.
Well, I mean,
I think it's more than just that. I think it's a big shout out to David Jaffe.
Oh, Jaffe's here. Shout out to David.
What's up, Jaffe? I think it's more than just what you can afford. I think whether or not it's something of interest to you, like that's the value. Like, is this something that you want, right? And if it's not something you want, you're not going to see value in it. And that's just that.
But that's how. But and I agree with that. But I think a lot of people take that word value and equate it to what you can affordability. What people are willing to spend on something. Like we're talking about it right now. The difference between a $60 game and a $70 game in Game Pass. That's a $10 difference, and that makes and breaks it for a lot of people. Is it a big deal? No, but in the grand scheme of it, you may only have, $300 to spend on games in that year. And that $10 adds up. That's like an extra game if you pay only $60 for them. So I do think that's the difference. You're absolutely right. But a lot of people do equate value to the amount that you're paying for something versus the value of the items that are in there.
I'll try to give David a good representation for his quote here. He says, no one is suggesting the conversation is not subjective, though. He says, anything you discuss regarding business models is going to be subjective. I mean, we were talking about the waiting game, Jeff, earlier in the podcast, and it was to a different subject. But to be honest with you, I kind of want to relate it to Game Pass. For me personally, this is a personal story. Microsoft having their waiting game, I'll tell you, in the waiting process, the same thing with Netflix. Netflix really didn't mean a lot to me when Netflix first came out. It really didn't. They had What About Bob streaming and a couple of bad, the discs that you could exchange back and forth was a nightmare. You were in a queue. You had to wait for your disc. It was a nightmare for me. I didn't think Netflix was all that great back then. Now Netflix is, the waiting game many, many, many years later. It's a really, really great service. I enjoy some of their original content, and I enjoy some of the third-party content that they grab in there. And I think that's the same thing for my feelings towards Game Pass. Every single day that goes by when they get like an Outriders in there, and then we hear that Starfield's going to be in there day one, or at least a new IP. This is a situation when Game Pass first came out, and it was just, Banjo-Kazooie and a bunch of 360 games. It didn't really, it was like What About Bob that I could stream on Netflix. I didn't care about it. But I think that it's getting better and better. And, Microsoft, that's what we were saying. Microsoft can do, this is how we're tying it in, Jeff. We said Microsoft can afford to wait. So the thing is with them and their ability to wait, they don't need to make money on this thing tomorrow. They don't need to make money on this thing 2 years from now. They don't. They need it to, sustain. They do need it to sustain. They certainly don't want it to tank. But if they can sustain, which it seems they're doing, it can only go up from here. And they can do that by how? First party, of course. We've beaten that horse to death. But it's also, like I said, these big... for me, big. I think big in the sense of surprise, in air quotes. Grabs like Outriders. Now, you guys can all sit there in the chat. I see a lot of people going, Outriders sucks, Mooch. I tried the demo. It's terrible. That's fine.
Great.
That's fine. But if you have Game Pass, now you get to play it, even if you weren't going to buy it. And someone like me who was about to go throw $60 for it down, now I don't have to do that.
Same here, Mooch. I was like, I mean, I like the demo. I was like,
me and Mooch, we're gonna get it on PS5, I think.
Yeah, now I'm going to play it on. Now I'm going to play it on Xbox for damn sure.
And I saw a lot of people taking the temperature, like on Twitter, like who's picking this up? What platform are you picking it up on? Now I'm kind of I know where I'm playing it now.
I know where I'm playing
it. I think it's a fair statement to say it's bad, but you can't just say it's bad because it's going to be part of Game Pass on Xbox and you don't like Xbox.
Right.
Like, listen, I haven't been the biggest Xbox supporter recently, but that's the biggest news that they've had in a long time. And they need to do more of that because they've made people wait so long for their first party to deliver anything. I feel like, they should do that all the time with as many games as they can.
Yeah. I don't care if it's double A, just it's something that's got some hype, right? Crap, something's got a little news behind it, I mean,
exactly. And I think that like we were all like, no way would they do that. A big AAA day and date, no way. And then here it is, you know what I'm saying? And it happened. So I think that's a really big move. It's a bold move. It shows that they're competing, which is something that I've asked them to do forever. Just go out there and compete. Do something. And now Sony's going to have to do something.
They have to.
We'll pay. We'll all
what it is. What it is, we don't know.
We'll all win from
Evo.
whatever it is, though.
It's Evo.
It is.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, it ain't.
I will say,
I'm joking.
I will say, Mooch, to your point about the waiting game is like people always try to frame what Microsoft is doing with Xbox Game Pass as like pro consumer or whatever the hell that means, or like they care about you and they care about you having a good value or whatever. It's definitely not that. They just know something that Netflix learned really quickly, and it's that it's the power of the passive sort of purchase.
Yes.
When you have a subscription in the background, you do not think about it anymore. The only time you think about it is if you have a bad month with your money and you're like, where can I cut it? And that's pretty rare for a lot of people. And even when you do, you don't necessarily go right away to the thing that's like that you've been paying for that you have been using. There's a lot of power in that, as opposed to trying to get you to buy the $70 game. Trying to convince you every single time to spend money on that $70 game. That is so much more difficult. And what Netflix has proven is that getting someone to subscribe, once they're subscribed, most people, even if it's not most, a lot of people tend to keep that subscription, and they tend to keep going for a very long time, and they're worth a lot more money in the long run. And so when I said earlier, like if you think that if you think a company's like on your side, you've been manipulated, they are 100% trying to manipulate us here. They're trying to put us to push us towards something that is going to benefit them in the long run. And I think it's probably going to work. And we just have to decide, each of us, if it is actually something that we think we can get a value out of, if it is something that is going to benefit us. And if it's not, at least, I will say, at least Microsoft is continuing to sell us many of these games the traditional way, if that's the way we want to go about it. That is something like Netflix hasn't really done. So it's like, okay, so at least Microsoft isn't taking options away from us yet. And so there's something good to be said about that. But otherwise, 100%, they're trying to manipulate us, and they have the money to spend the time to do that. So it's going to happen eventually. I think they're going to try really hard to push this to happen.
Yeah, that's exactly, well said, Jeff. The thing, Jeff. Yeah. That's exactly the thing. And I watched this, and people have to get over this thing where Game Pass is an option on both sides of the coin. It's completely fine to still pay for your game. It's completely fine to use Game Pass. So people have this thing where it's all or nothing either way, right? It's like, how can you not want this? Some people are just like, I just don't. I play this, and I'm good. Some people are like, yeah, I'll jump in there. I'll try all these different things. It's fine. There's no right or wrong. It's consumerism.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like that. David is saying like, how can you complain about that? I'm not complaining. We're illustrating what's happening here. Everyone is looking out for their own bottom line, right? I do complain about how Walmart treats its employees. And where do I shop when I need a good deal for something? I go to Walmart, because everyone's got to, like, we're in a system where everyone has to look out for their own best like interest. And for me, that means, okay, I got to save money where I can. And sometimes that means shopping at Walmart because there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. So trying to like find that way where it's like, okay, how am I going to spend my money in a way that doesn't violate any of these sort of problems that I might have? It's impossible. So let's at least talk about them, admit them, and say that when someone does join your subscription on your YouTube thing, it's the same idea. And we can all admit this and say that's the same thing that's happening here. And that person that is clicking that join button has to decide for themselves whether or not they want to support that. And we can be forthright about what is happening there. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's very well put. And it's funny that you make a point on Walmart or Target, doesn't matter which company you're talking about. I said this ages ago. Now this sounds like, oh, it's Monday morning quarterback, but you go back in the day, and I know I'm specific to just the Northeast here, but you had your Caldors and your Bradleys, and there was a bunch of like Woolworths, right? You remember? I don't know if you guys remember any of these companies. I remember this. Walmart came in and knocked all these guys out. So now
destroyed them, Mooch.
Jeff, if you live down the road from me and you're like, Mooch, you got to check this out. I got a great deal over at Walmart. I'll go, what are we comparing it against? I mean, there's nobody back in the day used to go to 3-4 stores, get a comparison. Now it's like, because whatever Walmart does, Amazon matches like within a second and vice versa. Right. And it's the same thing with Target. Target sometimes will still keep their price higher because who the hell knows what's going through Target's mind. But I mean, that's the thing. You almost don't have a choice. And that's what's happening here. If all the content ends up going in there, we don't really have a choice when it comes down to it. But I think overall, I like your pitch there, Jeff, on how you said that they don't have. It's a much harder sell for Microsoft and Sony to sell that $70 title per title than it is for you to get in there because, and everybody says it again, it's the gym membership, right? There's a lot of people listening to this show right now. They have a gym membership. They haven't touched a treadmill. They don't even know what a treadmill looks like. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you.
Like, look at Nintendo, though. Like, I mean, Nintendo's the one, the exception to this rule, right? Where they're going to sell 30 million copies of like 5, 6, 7, 8 games by the end of this generation, just completely obliterating everyone else. So, that world is possible if you're Nintendo, but Sony and Microsoft aren't Nintendo. They don't have that sort of sales power when it comes to each and every one of their games.
Yeah. And it's funny, I really wanted to get... go ahead. HR, is that you?
No, that's no.
Oh, Forte, I'm sorry. I talked over you.
Jeff Grubb, I would like for you to say that again one more time, but I want you to say Slow-Mo's name in front of it. Say Slow-Mo. PlayStation games will sell that many games and nobody else can do it. That's what I'm talking about. Because most people, because some people don't think that Nintendo is as valuable as we think they are.
Nintendo can do whatever they want, apparently.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're untouchable right now. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they'll mess up again. I'm sure they'll have another misstep because that's Nintendo. When they try to get wild, they'll have a misstep. But in the end, they're making games that 30 million people want to pay $60 for, and very few other companies can say that. So
Yeah, no, and it's funny. We're sitting here, and it's after 9 o'clock here, and I know these guys have so much to do. I'm taking them away from family, friends, and gaming on a Friday night. Some people are actually going to watch the Snyder's Cut tonight, which means they'll be up till about Saturday morning cartoons. But I got to be honest with you, I wanted to give a shout out to Jade Raymond. The one thing about it that, and it's funny because what Google did, and Jeff, you mentioned this earlier in the show too, and how they just kind of left all those employees out in the dark. They recruited them all and then just kind of cut them. And of course, we don't know what actually happened, but it just didn't seem right. I want to say bravo to Jade for opening up her own studio, and it reminds me a lot of what's going on, what happened with Kojima and Konami, right? When they had a bit of a falling out and he left, and Sony immediately went over to Kojima Productions and signed him for an exclusive deal. Of course, we got Death Stranding, which I happen to love. I love the game. And I know not everybody does, but I did. But Jade's doing that same thing, and Sony went over and said, this is a very talented woman, unbelievable crew. She's probably, and the connections that she has in the industry and the business is unbelievable. The minute she announced her new studio, you had Phil and everybody else that's under the sun tweeting, good luck out there. If you need anything, let us know. Like that's the kind of respect that she's gotten over the years. So bravo to Sony for going out there and scooping that studio up for an exclusive. Pardon me, let me rephrase that, because they did not acquire them. They have an exclusive game coming out. They went ahead and
like
did
the Kojima deal.
Like the Kojima deal.
The Kojima deal.
Absolutely. That's why I did the correlation there. But we're not going to get a chance to get to that. So let me do this. We'll go in reverse order here. And just an outstanding show tonight. I had a blast. It's always great with the great Jeff Grubb here. Jeff, I'll go in reverse order and say this. Jeff, thanks for being here tonight. Very insightful. Again, very entertaining. CrossFire is generally a little loud. But that being said, thanks for being here. Hopefully, definitely not your last time to Crossfire, and let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah. I'm a Jeff Grubb on Twitter, and I tweet too much, so don't follow me. But if you want to know what I'm doing, just type that URL in, just twitter.com/Jeff Grubb, and just peek for a second, but don't hit that follow button, whatever you do. And then you can get me on YouTube, youtube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. I got a show where I talk about my game mess now, where like events that are happening this summer, this fall, stuff that's coming up. I try to explain what you can expect from them and try to give you some scoops here and there. And that show's I just started that show in like the last week or two, and it's been going really well, and I'm having a lot of fun doing that. So that's the best place to check me. And I echo what you said about Jade. I think she's going to do real well there. Sony is not going to not let her ship a game. Sony made that deal because they know they can get a game out of her, and that's one thing you could say about Sony is like when they made that deal with Kojima, they got a game out of him really quick, and they'll do the same with Jade.
And it's funny. Like I said, I wish we had more time to talk about it. You just ended it with such a good point there. They got it out so quick. Here we are. We're saying, well, it's going to take 3 years, 4 years, 5 years for these games we're talking about. Meanwhile, Kojima has that unbelievable breakup, which was so public with Konami.
Yep.
Comes out 3 years later.
Jimmy gets credit for that, but really Sony should get a lot of credit for being able to put that together. Sony management made that deal work that way. It's very impressive.
No, that's a good point. That is a very good point. Jeff, thank you for being here tonight. It truly, truly means a lot that you stopped by the show. And then I've got the great HR Bomber who was here with us. And, Bomber, shout out to you as well, because I said to you, hey, Bomber, I said, you got some time tonight to join us? He's like, you know what? I actually do. So, Bomber, outstanding job that you do on, of course, Gaming Beyond the Box. But you just do so much for the community. You keep so many people like kind of uplifted in all the times that there's the console wars that everybody wants to go away but will never go away. But Bomber, let everybody know where they can find you, and truly thank you for being here tonight.
Of course. No, I appreciate it. Sorry I didn't get to speak too much. My kids and everything else was going kind of crazy.
Oh, I hear that, believe me.
Quite a bit, but but no, of course you can follow me on Twitter if you want. That's HR Bomber 1414. And of course, Wednesday nights, got Gaming Beyond the Box. So yeah, I mean, that's where you can find me. Anywhere else, I'm sorry, I'm probably not going to be there. But but no, I definitely appreciate you bringing in here because I mean, yeah, panel fire as usual, and of course, first time getting to be around Mr. Grubb here, so that's pretty cool.
Outstanding. Bomber, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it. Then the voice of reason, who literally, he explained it to you as easy as it gets. And by the way, E, you don't realize it. You have a trancing voice over everybody. Everybody just went and pre-ordered Returnal after your speech. So,
No, don't
E,
put that on me, man. I don't want anybody coming at me like
he's like, don't start, Mooch.
Play second, baby.
But E, it's always awesome to have you here, man. Congratulations.
The force was strong with me.
Congratulations also on your anniversary lately, buddy. Outstanding to have you, man, here. Look, I hope our schedules align more often because doors always open for you to be here on CrossFire. So let everyone know where they can find you, and I hope you'll be back real soon.
Yeah, no, once again, thanks for having me, man. It's always great to come through, talk to the great panel tonight. It's always good to talk to Jeff. I think it's my first time actually being on with Bomber, so that's been good. But yeah, you can find me, EC Jackson with an X on Twitter and on Brat Podcast with the great Enrique here and Forte and Slow Mo Backslap and Beat Money. And then on Tuesday nights, wow, I'm drawing a blank on my podcast.
Gaming Perspective, man.
Gaming Perspective. Gaming Perspective podcast with Nicholas Downey, Sam Tolbert, and Jarrett Eden. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
What's the name of the show? Gaming Perspective?
Gaming Perspective.
Oh, okay. Gaming Perspective is the only show I will ever give any scoops to. You heard it here first.
Oh, wow, there it is.
Oh, wow.
Jeff, it's already been reported on IGN. There you are. So it moves.
Mutex just uploaded a video.
Yes, that's how fast things go in the digital world, folks. I want to say shout out to Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. Brap, outstanding to have you on this week again. I hope you enjoyed your happy hour, aka Crossfire.
I did. I always do.
Buddy, great conversations tonight. Good stuff. Appreciate you being here. Let people know where they can find you. And I'll even do a little quick plug for you. I was on Brap this past Wednesday, and it was a fantastic show. But Brap, let them know where they can find you, buddy.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I just want to say big shout out to everyone in the live chat that hung out with us tonight.
Yes.
And yeah, you can find me, as Eric said, on Brat Podcast every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Brat stands for Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. And if you want to give me a follow on the Twitters, Brap_podcast as well. Mooch, thank you again. Always a pleasure. Great panel, great topics, great conversation as always.
Awesome, brother. Thank you. And then the great Gaming Forte, which Forte, by the way, outstanding when you're on the show, buddy. And I know you work on Fridays, and it's right to the wire, but I truly appreciate you being here and putting your insight down, laying that smackdown down. An outstanding DPS, by the way, last night. Outstanding. Love the new set. Love everything about it. Looks great. Looks fantastic. But let people know where they can find you and let people know about DPS. And you might even want to plug Slow-Mo because we are just so close to Bugsnax.
Yo, so
yes.
One thing that I am most excited about is the fact that Slow-Mo Backslap is literally 34 subs away from that 1K number. So yo, like I never tell anybody to go sub to somebody's channel because of a bet and do we want them to play Bugsnax, even though that's kind of part of it. I think you should subscribe to the channel just because the dude makes great videos and he does things that most content creators don't do. He actually does deep dives into those developers and actually talks about the things that he truly cares about the most. So yeah, it appeals to you. Go sub to his channel, Slow-Mo Backslap, on YouTube, and help us get that Bugsnax stream faster than anything. For myself, it's Gaming Forte everywhere: YouTube, Twitter, Xbox Live. DPS podcast was last night on Slow-Mo's channel. Amazing show.
Great show.
Yeah, loved it. Set turned out really, really well. Next week it will be on my channel, so come check that out. Also, shout out to 3/5 of the Brat podcast, all on one show. That's what I'm talking about. Love sharing the love on that one. And
we are the voice of reason.
Yeah, we try.
I think.
We try.
I think.
We definitely try.
Not according to our comment section sometimes.
Our comment section is very interesting this week, by the way.
And then shout out to HR Bomber. Got a chance to be here with him. And then Jeff Grubb, as always, man, it's great to always have you on different shows that we're on. So keep doing what you're doing. I really appreciate the work you're doing. And other than that, you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you guys next week.
Appreciate that, Forte. And then I've got my buddy here, Crap Gamer. Crap, listen, I know you had a long day as well. You did a lot. You were running around, family stuff, work, job, all that. But you still stopped. I know he's probably going to that right after this. But Crap, honestly, thank you for being here tonight, buddy. It truly means a lot. And we've got MNC this weekend I'm very excited about. But let everybody know where they can find you.
Crap Gamer reviews, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely crap. And then let's give a quick shout out to the Xbot448. Xbot couldn't make it tonight. He works every other Friday, guys. Yes, thank you for that. And check out next podcast on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm just saying. Guys, you already know. Hit that like button on the way out. Hit the subscribe button. If you would like to become a Mooch Maniac family member, hit that join button right above the description. And we will see you guys next Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Have a great night. Peace out. Game on. Check out that Snyder's Cut. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Whew. Drink a lot of Red Bull before you do.